We ready? Chris drinking from this goblet, putting EJ's whiskey into his goblet of fire.
Life finds a way.
Tiffany has a bone to pick.
The N64 Defender logging in.
Yeah.
Fair. Totally fair. I like it more than both of you do. So
She generally agreed, but I mean, Nate was literally like, I don't think I've agreed with the placement of a single one of these consoles, except maybe the Switch.
We need to get Nate on. He listens. He gives you his thoughts and opinions. You share our screenshots with him, but not his screenshots with us. This is a very one-way relationship.
I love that I'm in your head thinking that I'm sharing screenshots. I think the only time I shared screenshots was when you called me a son of a bitch for killing a couple of Gleoks with 4 hearts and like no buffs.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, you're like, how? No. In fact, your first one was stop.
I haven't killed any because I ran out of arrows and was like, well, never mind.
How do you guys run out of arrows? That's amazing to me.
I only have about like 20 on hand at any given point.
That's wild. When you clear out an encampment, you got to smash some boxes, my dude. Just pick them up and drop them on each
clear
other.
out encampments. What's the point of doing that?
Yeah, this game wants you to stay away from fighting like at all costs.
I don't agree at all. It wants you to use fusion. God damn it, we're talking about Zelda. Console Crusade Triforce cast. Although I guess not.
There's no Triforce!
Yeah, where's the fucking Triforce, man? Closest thing we got was Rauru tri-beaming the shit out of that Molduga herd, which was pretty dank.
Tri-beam cannon.
No, but the third eye opened and I was like, stop it. He's gonna literally tri-beam these things. I was like, that's amazing.
He went full fucking Tien Shinhan on their asses.
One of my favorite moments of Dragon Ball Z where Tien's like, I'm literally useless other than to stun lock this boss who is going to kill me when I run out of energy, and he does it anyway. I was like, that is it. He immediately goes to A tier in the Dragon Ball Z Fighters tier list, which we should totally do sometime now that I've said it out loud.
He's tied with Chaozu, let's be honest.
I'm a huge Dragon Ball stan, like OG Dragon Ball. And Tien was a badass. It's sad that he, like all the other Z fighters, becomes a fucking dork. But at least they didn't make him like a babysitter and a joke. Like he still had his moment, where he's just beaming the fuck out of Cell into the ground.
I don't know. The Cell Saga was the last saga that actually had non-Saiyan fighters that were somewhat relevant or entertaining.
Yeah, like my boy Hercule, classic.
Love Mr. Satan.
Yeah, right. Oh man, my mom. Okay, story time. A friend of mine in elementary school. I'm in Texas, and my mom's teaching music at the elementary school, and we're in her room, and a friend of mine is like, I have a VHS tape with an episode of Dragon Ball GT on it. And I'm like, first of all, how the fuck do you have that? Second of all, can I borrow that? And she's like, oh yeah, totally. It's really funny. It's got all these like Japanese commercials and you can't fucking understand any of it. It's subtitled, it's sub, which I had not listened to anything. Sure enough, Dragon Ball GT, there it is. 2 things about Japanese language Dragon Ball GT. The intro definitely has Kid Goku's kid dick in it. We're watching this in my mom's classroom after school, and it has Mr. Satan. And so mom sees the intro and is like, what the hell is this? And is like immediately, I was like, it's Dragon Ball. And she's like, why is that? And I'm like, Des, calm down. And then she's like, very side-eyeing this thing, and then comes back later in a Hercule moment, and the subtitle reads, look, it's Satan, it's Mr. Satan, and mom goes, it's Satan, it's Mr. Satan, and fucking pulls the VHS out of the player. End game. Done. Console Crusade Forecast, bringing you live memories. Oh, someone help start the episode. I can't be trusted with this, clearly.
Maybe I will leave all this in. I don't know. Console Crusade podcast. We're finally going to get there. We're meandering because there's nothing to fucking really talk about this week. So we're going to just make up some shit, talk way too long. Nick's going to go to bed at 10. I'm EJ Olson. Nick Derheim.
Shit so.
Chris Gilly, 4.
Life will find a way.
There we go. That is the intro this week. It all comes around. Yeah, we really don't have much to talk about. We're going to do a little deep dive on the SNES. We're going to bring that segment back, talk about some cool games that, we didn't have a chance to talk about before on our top 100 list. I'd like to talk a little bit about the Sony showcase, which was a few weeks ago now, but, give us all a chance to fucking rag on the Wii U thing that they slapped a DualSense on the side of. Y'all have anything on your list that I should write down here before we kick things off? Nick is staring intently into a second screen.
I'm just browsing to see if there was anything in the past week or so that's like worth talking about. And besides the Sony showcase, that was 2 weeks ago at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a expose on the problems over at Arcane causing the Redfall debacle to become a reality. And that's pretty much it. Everyone is kind of like holding their breath for the next week of showcases and all the crap that's going to be hailing down upon us from our gaming gods.
I know we're not doing a league update right now. That'll be a few weeks from now. But Nick, you got some slots to fill. You got to hope you're going to get some good shit announced in the next couple of weeks here.
Not worried.
Yeah, I wouldn't be if I were you either, man. I know of like one game coming out, and that's where I'm at, and I'm sure you've got your ear to the ground.
Your strategy has not hinged upon knowing what's coming out whatsoever.
That's true.
Nope. I'm going to do the same thing next year, except I'm going to wait until halfway through the year and have roughly the same amount of slots as you and hopefully around the same amount of money as you so I can do the same shit to you that I did to EJ this year. Because that shit paid off for me. This is not a league update.
Okay. So a couple weeks ago, before we did our Zelda chat last week, we talked about doing the segment where we're just going to go through all of Nintendo's consoles, one per week, and just highlight some games that we didn't get to on our Console Crusade official top 100 list. Chris, I know you're ready to go, so let's just start with you. Throw a game out there, talk to us a little bit, and let's do the damn thing.
We're talking SNES titles?
Ooh.
I totally had my title, but I'm going to call an audible here. I was going to do the Super Game Boy just to piss both of you off because I think it's like an absolutely incredible piece of technology that like childhood me could not believe was real. Just like I could play my Game Boy games on a television and it'll give me these borders and like color shade them and everything. It was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. But I just I'm doing a playthrough the Mega Man X franchise on Sundays, and I'm now through the original trilogy on Super Nintendo. And I'm gonna go with Mega Man X2. I had only played X2 and X3 once on the Mega Man X collection on GameCube in like high school. So I mean, it's been like 15, 16, maybe even like 17 years since I played either X2 or X3. X3 is fucking garbage, but I'll talk about that later in the podcast. My memory was X2 and X3 just not being as good as the original. And I do think that they're not as good, but I think that X2 is in every way a really worthy sequel to Mega Man X that iterated on the franchise in some really interesting ways and had some really cool hidden shit that you could do. So picks up after the events of Mega Man X. Zero obviously is destroyed, so X is kind of leading the Reploids and is trying to stamp out like the last faction that's still following Sigma. So it is like a true sequel in that sense. You start with the dash. The dash from this point in the series just becomes like a base form X power, which I think was super, super smart to try to create something different with the leg module. And it's just got a great stable of robot masters that like rivals the first one between like Flame Stag and Overdrive Ostrich. Morph Moth is like an especial highlight where this little dude just like strings down and you're like, what is this? And if you don't whack him fast enough with his weakness, he just gets like bigger and bigger from accruing all this trash. But then when you do a certain point of damage, it just falls down and the shell like the chrysalis opens up and like actual Morph Moth comes out and you have to do a completely different strat for the whole second half of the boss fight. I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is really cool boss design. The soundtrack absolutely fucks. It is not Mega Man X, but it is very fucking close. Like Overdrive Ostrich stage, Flame Stag, Crystal Snail, Wheel Gator, all have like really memorable themes. The sort of like Sigma's Fortress analog, the X Hunter stage has a banger of a theme, and they just kept it consistent through all three levels of that, which I really liked. Because Sigma's Fortress, like after the first stage with the sort of like moody, kind of evocative track. It kind of falls off really hard until you actually fight Sigma himself. So I love that it's this like really driving theme that like pushes you through these stages until you inevitably face off with Sigma's reincarnated form. God, the powers are cool. They do some really neat stuff with some of them, like with the charged effects that I think are more interesting than Mega Man X, like Flame Stags. When you have the Buster upgrade and you charge it, you dash straight through the air. So you can chain that with your own dash, which you can now initiate from the air with the leg upgrade in this game, into like double dashes. And they use it really cleverly in how they hide some of the items and really force you to be precise with that stuff. And the whole like roaming group of X hunters that are sort of, they're literally called counter hunters in the original Japanese, that they are hunting the hunters. And they beam around the map. And if you find them, they're in like secret boss rooms you have to find in the level. And if you defeat them, you get each of the 3 parts to Zero's body, basically. And again, if you get them and you reanimate Zero using the control chip that Dr. Kane has in his headquarters, Zero will like show up right before the Sigma fight and just like murder Black Zero that Sigma created to be an analog for you. It's just like an amazing moment that I can imagine people playing this game for the first time being like, how is this going to pay off? Am I get to play a Zero, whatever? And then he just like beams in, destroys a boss that you otherwise were going to have to fight, and is like, got you, bro, and then beams out and leaves you to kick Sigma's ass. Like, it's awesome. It's awesome. I had a really, really good time going through X2, and I think that it deserves more praise than it gets.
I didn't realize sort of how people rank those games. From a collector standpoint, I always looked at the X trilogy as sort of, they're always talked about together. And so I guess in my head, I sort of conflated the sort of public perception about them. I've never played 2 or 3, so I don't have that perspective.
I would really like to own physical copies of all of those games. I have kind of, sort of.
Yeah, 3 especially.
3 especially. I have a physical of Mega Man X promised to me. I don't know if I've talked about this on this particular podcast, but Nana's getting old, and she and Grandpa Norm, when he was still alive, from time to time would like revisit their will, and they'd always ask like, is there anything specific that you'd like that matters to you that you'd really like to have? And at one point, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, before we moved to the Southeast, she asked, and I went, I would really like my kid to grow up playing the Super Nintendo that I grew up playing at Nana's house. And so Nana's like, okay. And so she's earmarked the Super Nintendo, her Super Nintendo, and her SNES games that I grew up playing for me when she passes. So,
how old is your grandmother, and why hasn't she given you the Super Nintendo before now?
Oh, because it's still a thing. Like when I visit Oregon, I go upstairs, I slap Mega Man X into the SNES, and I blast out a playthrough of that game every time. Like I've done playthroughs of like Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2 on that thing. Like I'll throw Aladdin in for a lull from time to time.
Good game.
Great game. I love that game. Good game. Really good game. One of the best licensed games that I know of. Hot take. So that's why it needs to be at Nana's house while there's still a Nana's house. And Nana's like 82, 83. She's in really good health too. I was sort of surprised. I knew she had like a leg surgery and then kind of had a setback with that. And so I get up to Oregon for the beach weekend. I'm thinking like, oh my God, like how well is she going to be moving? Like this could potentially really kind of put me in a weird place with that mortality. And she's like moving around totally fine. I'm like, oh, thank God. Like this is great. Like you're in way better shape than Mom made you out to be via text. That's 2 on the Des 4 console Crusade counter, I guess.
I hope you do not inherit that console until 2045, but
you and me both, brother.
When you get that Super Nintendo, it'll be a lot of feels.
I sincerely hope that not only does like my kid have a relationship with great grandma Nana, probably still will just be Nana, but that they will also be able to play that Super Nintendo while it's still Nana's Super Nintendo.
Nick, talking about the Super Nintendo, are all the games that you played on Super Nintendo, did they all make the list?
They were all pretty goated, and any other games that I did play were either so brief to not leave too much of an impression, or just kind of poor and not impactful. in a lot of ways. Like I remember we had a really, really bad port of the arcade game that was the Avengers beat 'em up. And like the game is bad, and the only thing memorable of it is the digitized voice acting that was on the cartridge, and just how that is just burned into my brain because it's really like performances. Just no. I mean, I'd have to send you a link of all the sound effects because they're just great. Like Avengers, we need your help. Like just that kind of stuff. It's very the 90s Marvel,
Well, this is kind of the problem with like Nintendo in general, the problem, quote unquote, as it pertains to our extremely niche podcast. Yeah, all the Nintendo games that we've played, they all made the fucking list because they're all so good. It's like half of our list is just Nintendo games. It's tough to like pull into the memory banks and be like, what was the one fucking weird game that we rented on a 3-day weekend? Okay, I've got one for you. I know Nick's gonna know this. We've talked about it because the composer for this game also did a game on our top 100. And that game is Spider-Man and X-Men Arcade's Revenge.
Yo!
Same composer's Plock.
Really well loved. And yeah, he's done awesome soundtracks to the most like banal kind of trash that was all licensed games. Like there's a really bad, like there's a RoboCop game that has this awesome theme song for no good reason. I think it's Tim Fallon. Tim Fallon's the guy, right? I had to get there. I was talking to myself just to like buy time so I could remember that.
That is like a rare example of somebody who is A, great at what they do, B, clearly loves what they do, and C, doesn't give a shit if they're working on the next big thing or not. They're going to do a damn good job regardless. Like
totally, for sure.
Chris, your face lit up when I said Arcade's Revenge. You played this game.
It lives in the corner of memory where I wonder if I ever actually put that game in a Super Nintendo. You know what I mean? Where it's like everybody knew that game in the same way that everybody knew Spider-Man, Venom, Maximum Carnage, but like who, and that sick ass red SNES cart, but who actually played it? I don't rightly know.
It is pretty poorly remembered because it is crushingly difficult. I mostly as a kid played the first level over and over and over because you open the game as Spider-Man and they actually fucking nail like the swinging mechanic and just feeling like Spider-Man swinging around, sticking to walls, and you're crawling around this maze and collecting. I can't remember if it was orbs or something. You're collecting something as you do, and yeah, it actually felt kind of badass. And then like it just devolves quickly into like Cyclops' level is like a minecart level. Like if you die, you have to completely restart. There's no checkpoints, and it's just like, if I remember correctly, I think there was an exploit actually was it on the minecart level with Cyclops, or was it on Wolverine's level? I think it was on the minecart level. You could exploit where you could get maximum lives by just doing this one thing over and over, like jumping off of a track at a certain point. But anyway, super difficult game. It's just like the lawless wasteland, dude, in the 90s, where developers we've talked about it, like they don't know how to fucking do anything. They're figuring this shit out as they go. And they're like turning games around in 6 months. So it's just a fucking shit show. There's a level where you're being chased. I think it's the Wolverine level where you're getting chased by Juggernaut the entire time. But the only way to do damage to Juggernaut is to jump and claw. Like there's, I don't know I can't remember what they are, but they're hanging from the ceiling. And you have to like claw them off the ceiling. But you have to time it so that it lands on Juggernaut. But Juggernaut, the pacing of how he's running and how you're running and how little time you have to actually make the jump to like claw the fucking thing and hit him. Like it has such a small window. It is just an incredibly infuriating level and game. How did anyone ever beat these kind of games back in the day?
They weren't made to be beaten.
Yeah, it's
I mean, that's right.
Semi-arcade ports, they were meant to occupy time and eat quarters, I guess. Not that this was ever in the arcade, but that was the philosophy.
Yeah, it's like a expensive chunk of plastic with a colorful box that make kids like beg their parents to buy it for them,
This is one of those games that when I sold my collection off, which I want to talk about collecting today too, by the way. That's on the fucking agenda. But when I sold my collection off, I had to keep this. It's not worth fucking shit, but I just have such vivid memories of going over to the neighbor's house and they had this game. Because I didn't grow up with a Super Nintendo. We had an NES and then a PlayStation, so I kind of missed.
Bit of a jump.
Right. You're telling me. Well, I had Freddy Fish and Putt Putt, to sort of bridge the gap on PC. You know what I mean? So Storm is in this game, and like all of her levels are like swimming levels. It's like a shitty Echo the Dolphin fucking thing where you're going around like, and it's like, why are you swimming? Like, you have all these dope powers. And then at the end of the game, like the end game, right before the boss battle, you get to like actually play Storm not in a water level. And she has all these new powers. And you're like, where was this for the entire game? She has like 2 major levels to play as her, and you don't get to use any of her powers until like a 5-minute portion right before the final boss fight, which like 4% of people who ever played this game ever got to. That's like a lot of, Chris, you said like the Spider-Man Carnage, Maximum Carnage. Everyone knew that game.
That game is bullshit. By the way, I bought that on Craigslist in college for like $10 and was like, oh, this is going to be great. And it's fucking incomprehensible. I mean, it's just one of those like beat 'em up side scroller things where you're like, I don't know what you want me to do. And everything just massacres me and I don't have enough lives. And now Vulture's like flying in and like whacking me when I'm trying to climb this building. Like, I don't get this. It's just bad.
Well, and this is sort of a problem that Spider-Man games historically have. If you cannot get the movement of Spidey correct, it doesn't matter what else your game does well. Like, that is the most important thing in a Spider-Man game, is to make it feel like Spider-Man. And even up until 2018, they were still like trying to crack the code on exactly how you do that. And every time they go from a side scroller to the first time we went to like a proper 3D game, and they're constantly having to like reinvent like what that means. But shout out to Spider-Man X-Men Arcade's Revenge, one of the worst games of all time.
Dude, that was such a like prime era for, here's this game and here it is on the Game Gear and here it is on the Genesis and here it is on the Game Boy. You can buy Spider-Man and the X-Men and Arcade's Revenge for the Game Boy, and I'm considering it because it's on eBay right now for about $15.
Dude,
hey, get it.
I did not know they had a Game Boy version. I wonder if the Game Boy version's good, because every console got its own version, like ground up for the most part.
I want it on Game Gear. I love my Game Gear. That's like one of my favorite things. One of my favorite things in my collection.
The music's probably really good on the Game Boy because Tim Fallon knew how to fuck around with the NES sound chip, so he probably got a lot out of the Game Boy.
Did we lose Nick?
We did. I was like, is it just me again? Shit. But then I saw your face moving.
Did you lose me?
We lost Nick.
He's so pensive and measured. I envy that. Nick, when you listen back to this episode, just know that I want to be a little more like you.
Oh, he can still hear us. I was going to say, that's the inner turmoil that you're seeing on his face. He can still hear us, but he's not moving and we cannot hear him. Nick, we can't hear you. Is Lindsay using the microwave?
It's Daisy. Daisy's chewing on his wired Ethernet cable.
Nick, can I see your face?
Oh, he's back.
There you go. He's back. Dude.
Yeah, I heard every single word y'all were saying, so hopefully it didn't cut off weirdly for me.
You're still recording, right? All is well?
Oh, no, I turned my entire computer off and I deleted every file I've ever owned.
Okay, smart ass.
Yeah, fuck off.
Okay.
Fuck you, I take back what I said.
Oh.
You can't take it back. I already heard it.
No!
Nick, do you actually have a game, or was your 2 cents on Avengers it?
Well, no, I don't want that to be it. I mean, we've already regaled on our top 100 some of the best SNES games of all time. And I think we did put enough discussion into both Earthbound and Mother 3 and deciding between those two. And then similarly with the Donkey Kong trilogy, but those games are still so important to me on a regular basis, just listening to music. I love video game music. I listen to it all the time. And the soundtracks to both Earthbound and the original Donkey Kong Country are like two of the most seminal pieces of art known to mankind made in the past 30 years. I mean, no, seriously, they're so good and so important to the success of those video games and for the attachment that their fans have to the games themselves. I think if you don't have a killer soundtrack, it's hard to be one of the greatest games of all time. And I think those have two of the best soundtracks on the SNES for sure. Donkey Kong Country 2, I mean, it made our list. I don't know if it has a better soundtrack than DKC 1. That's such a hard thing to compare because they're both so good and it's just a continuation of greatness from David Wise. And Earthbound, with its eclectic sort of Americana and reference to the 60s in its approach on jazz and folk, and the sampling that it does with those, and the craziness that Hip Tanaka had in that original soundtrack, and then also in Mother 3, where it was a different composer, but sort of kept running with that essence and having these recurring themes. And they're thematically fitting. Like, they are themes. They are not just a soundtrack. It's not a background song to what you're doing at the moment. It is exactly what you're doing when you're fighting a dirty new age hippie, and that bop starts dropping, and you got this fatty bass line going. Like, it puts you there. That and like the background visuals. So many indie games have tried biting that to try and like put you back into that Earthbound vibe, but it was just that was what that game was, and it's so important to it. Like, otherwise, it's just another Dragon Quest clone, right? It's just another line of monsters with black background, or here's a goblin in a field. But no, you're fighting this crazy statue, this golden statue that is corrupting the hearts and minds of this capitalist little boy, and you're shooting lightning at it, and it's reflecting back at you, and crazy shit's happening in the background, or you're fighting the third strongest mole out of 5 moles, and they're all the third strongest, like it's so wrapped up in the entire like essence of that game. So Earthbound and its soundtrack are very special to me. Even though Mother 3 is a better game, Earthbound is a more special experience because of the soundtrack.
Earthbound has a lot of issues. I played through that on the Wii U, but the soundtrack is so good. It is one of the few video game soundtracks I own on vinyl.
Yo, I'd love to have that. God, Nick, I've sent you that remix of the battle theme, right?
Oh, there's been many remixes, and I love all of them. And I really, really love the remix of the Kraken fight, because that song is nasty.
I'll send you. It's called Okay Disco. I mean, come on.
Okay Disco?
Yeah.
Okay Disco?
Okay Disco. Yeah, I was like, I heard that came up on my, like, you're done with your playlist, but you'll probably like these songs on Spotify. And I was like, God damn, that's better than anything on this. I'm so glad you talked about music, and in DKC, the context of like DKC 1 really briefly specifically, because that's part of what, when we did the Donkey Kong Country podcast many moons ago, and I was like 2.8 sheets to the wind, it's so beautiful and haunting and evocative, and like does exactly what it needs to do for that game, that it makes it so hard to rate 1 and 2 against each other, even though, like, objectively speaking, the music does go from like Super Saiyan to Super Saiyan 4 in between DKC 1 and DKC 2, but it accomplishes its goal so effectively of being like lonely and moody and setting the tone for this game that's like really isolated. And man, I'm here as I'm saying all these words, I'm like, this sounds a lot like Metroid games. No wonder I like this experience so much. Anyway, I really appreciate you talking about like music as the nexus for that, because there's some lost gems on the SNES for sure. #Plock when it comes to the soundtrack, which I really wish I'd sprung for on vinyl when that was available. Egg on my face on that one.
Got to check Discogs, man. Some of those stay cheap,
Discogs?
Discogs. Oh yeah, that's the #1 hub for all things vinyl.
Oh no, what have you done?
Listen, I'll get you hooked.
Next thing he's going to tell you about is eBay.
yeah, for real though. We're going to talk about eBay today. Anyway, music. I don't. We talked about this last week, but I don't really think too much about it. It's sort of ancillary to the experience. I'm too busy in the game to like think much about it, and I don't really listen to lots of music outside of that. When I think about some of the games in my top 10 all time, Skyrim, Wind Waker, Spyro 2, Pokemon Crystal, like the soundtracks to those games to me are freaking iconic, and I can recall them instantly. And I don't love those games because of the soundtrack. Do I love the soundtrack because of those games? Or is there something more at play with just the overall ambiance and being in the experience? Chris just found Discogs in his face. He's appalled at probably the cost of a Plock vinyl right now.
No, there's so much here, and I have stupid spending money this summer. God damn it. Oh, they released a Plock soundtrack on cassette. I have to have that.
With your cassette player?
Shut up. It's collectible.
Oh no.
Dude, Discogs is an awesome website. I buy and sell through there when it comes to vinyl exclusively. I have my entire collection cataloged there. Be careful buying from just anybody. It's literally like eBay, but way less regulated. So anyway, be careful, but have fun. Mother 2 was on my list when we first incepted this, and we were going to like talk about 3 games each, like hidden gems, or not even hidden gems, but just like honorable mentions to our top 100, right? And Earthbound was there. And even though I didn't like love that game, and I think I've probably said this before, but the concept of like being on this adventure and away from home, and like you get homesick and like
Gotta call mom.
yeah, you call home and you talk to your mom. That was very emotional for me in like 2015-ish when I was playing this game, and I was like, I'd been on my own for 5 years at that point. But in the end of 2014, I moved to Eugene, and like it was my first time being like away from home. You know, and it wasn't like seeing my parents every day and like being in a familiar place. So that concept always really resonated with me. And so, yeah, like I said, even though I don't love that game, I was more annoyed by it. I appreciate a lot of what they do. The soundtrack is great. The art style, a lot of the pop culture references, like there's a lot of fun stuff about that. But I was at the coast last week for my birthday, and the first full day we were there, we were like, let's go thrifting and just kind of pop around, you know, downtown Coos Bay. And there were 2 game stores in town. So we pop into this first game store, right? Right away, it's like, I mean, it's very small, but it's way cooler than any game store that I have been into in Portland or Eugene. There's like just box consoles all over the wall. Like you walk in and there's a whole standee. It's like the World Nintendo standee with a shit ton of Nintendo Power under it. Boxed NESs and SNESs, like right. And it's like the first thing you see when you go in. And you look behind the counter and you're like, oh my gosh, like a freaking sealed Earthbound big box, you know, with the Fred Meyer price sticker that says like, I don't know, it was $40 or $60 or whatever it was. I was like, okay. Like if anything, there's some stuff here to like look at. Like it's an experience, you know?
It's too expensive. And it's like, this is great, but do I really need that boxed Earthbound with the Fred Meyer price sticker?
Oh God, no. That would be thousands of dollars. But most of the time, like, so for example, last summer, I took Daniel to a game store. It was actually the same franchise. It's there's 2 of the same stores, same name, owned by the same lady. The one in Tillamook sucked. It was picked over. Prices were terrible. The guy who worked there was awful. Like,
man, wow.
He just talked a lot. He was extremely loud, but he was also very aggressive. He would be like, I get these fucking tweakers in here and I'll fucking kill them if they come back. And it was like, bro, I'm just trying to buy a game with my 13-year-old brother, man. Completely wacky. You know what I mean? Bad experience in Tillamook. Go to the one in Coos Bay. Similar experience, but different. The woman who owns the store seemed like a nice gal. Wouldn't shut the fuck up. She was telling me about everything. She'd been here for 25 years, and she was going into all these details about the whole store. And then she says, you watch Metal Jesus Rocks? And I was like, yeah, I know Metal Jesus. She's like, oh, he just put out a video on me this morning. And I was like, oh, I actually saw the thumbnail for that in my YouTube feed. I didn't realize this was the same woman. And she starts talking about all the phone calls I've been getting since the video went up 6 hours ago, all this stuff. And I'm just trying to look. So I'm looking around, and poor Sarah's here, like, kind of playing intermediary, just getting her face blasted off by this woman who, like, and this woman is like answering. Here's a visual for you. Hello, Recycle Video Games. Yeah, and so 20 years ago, I took the place over. She's on the phone, just answered the call, and she's still talking to Sarah and kind of me as I'm looking around. Chaotic ADHD fucking energy, dude. I was just like, I'm just looking for games.
No wonder she wanted $800 no box for that frickin' Samus 3DS.
So the whole story behind this woman who runs Recycle Video Games is she's working with the city right now to try and create a video game museum in Coos Bay. Like she's trying to get the proper grants.
That's
do
cool.
The whole nonprofit thing. Yeah, it is cool. And so in the video with what's his face, they tour her whole. She has like 3 buildings in this complex in this little strip mall in Coos Bay, and they're all filled to the brim with like complete in box, like crazy rare collectible stuff. And she's like, "We're gonna do a history of video games museum," and she has a lot of the shit to do it. I mean, it's pretty impressive. She says, I have someone coming to relieve me at 3. Come back and we can go over your list of things you want and we can kind of dig and, you know, whatever. And I was like, sick, dude. Like, I shouldn't be spending money right now like this, but like, if you have some of the things I'm chasing after, beautiful, let's do it. So I come back. She doesn't want to sell anything in her store. I ask her how much you wanted the loose copy of Earthbound. How much do you want on the complete in box copy of Pokemon Heart Gold? How much do you want on the boxed PS1 1000 model with the different inputs on the back? Like all these things that I would totally have bought from her if the price was right. And she's like, I'm saving that for the museum. Why is it in your fucking store? Literally every single thing on my list that I asked about, she wouldn't sell me.
Damn.
It was pretty unfortunate because there was a lot of cool stuff. I was like, the NES box, the Super Nintendo box with the DKC branding on it, the pack in.
It's the one I had.
I'll buy all this stuff from you right now. Didn't want to sell anything. I get her to show me this complete in box Pokemon Heart Gold, right? And she's like, oh, you get a great deal for me. I don't care about eBay prices. This is about the love of gaming. She kept saying, this is my legacy. This is my legacy. It's just like a very weird, like I'm just trying to shop, you know, and she's just talking. I'm trying to be nice. And I say, well, how much do you want on the complete in box Pokemon? And I said, at first I was like, yeah, I might just want the box and the Pokewalker. I would take the game, but I already have the game, yada, yada. She brings out a few copies and I'm sort of piecing together the perfect copy. And she's doing the sales tactic where she's like, I don't want to open it. You do it. Because she wants me, wants me to touch it and feel ownership over it. So I gave her the money. Well, after I do this, I have like 3 copies. I put the perfect box together. I'm like, all right, depending on your price, I would do the whole bundle or I would just take the box and the Pokewalker. She hits me with like $350, which is like above eBay price, like ever so slightly. It's in the ballpark. I was like,
Wild.
This lady's talking about I don't care about price. This isn't about profit. Everything in here is authentic, and I don't even look at the resale market. I don't even know what things are going for these days. And she hits me with like a boom, perfect eBay price. Okay. Gosh, dang. So anyway, I'm ranting now, but it was an interesting experience because I so badly wanted to like buy something just for the experience of having been there, and also the like serendipity of like this guy I've been watching for 10 or 12 years. Like having just done this video in Coos Bay, like he was on a trip down to Oregon and it was the serendipity of it. I was like, I want to buy something here, like before this place blows up and they do the museum and this whole thing. And it's just kind of a fun thing. But eventually she had a copy of the Fire Emblem games on GameCube and Wii. Not amazing condition. GameCube wasn't complete. I wanted them. I was like, listen, here's what I'm willing to pay for them. Dude, she didn't want to sell fucking anything. Like, why did you go to the other building to pull this stuff out for me? Like, you priced the one thing. These things, you're like, I don't want to sell. Are you trying to just drive a hard bargain here?
I don't get it.
I don't understand. I can go to eBay right now and buy this if I was like that desperate to own it. I'm not going to overpay because it's here. Anyway, it was a very weird experience. I was there for hours talking to her and looking through stuff and trying to make a fucking deal on all this shit. And I have said that I am a reformed collector. And everything now is just about the childhood nostalgia.
Backsliding.
Dude, yes. I'm trying not to.
Relapsing.
Here's the thing. I'm sort of in between gigs right now. I have a couple things coming up at the end of the month. But where I would normally just kind of be like, cool, I got a couple weeks off, like waiting for the next couple things to hit. I have the surgery coming up and I'm paying for most of it out of pocket. So all that to say, basically, idle time is, I'm not making any money. Like I'm losing money if I'm sitting around, right? So I've been kind of going around. We went to the garage sales. We've been thrifting. I've been buying things on eBay with the intention of flipping.
You didn't talk about the garage sales? You had a good day out.
Yes. So being at the beach, I had already sort of been in this mindset of like finding things and reselling them if the price is right, which I always felt kind of dirty about when I was collecting. Like we'd go out to garage sales and we'd go to thrift stores and you'd find stuff and you'd say, man, like $30 for this game is like better than market, but like I just can't justify spending $30 on it. What I'm realizing now with this like reseller mentality is like, I don't care what the price is. If the price is $2,000, I'll pay it if I know I can make money on it, right? And suddenly, this sort of dirty term, being a reseller, that the collector community, we were so vehemently against 10, 12, 15 years ago, now it's just sort of what you have to do if you want to be a collector. You have to resell. And so I feel like I sort of missed an opportunity when I was at my peak collector phase, because if I had gone into it with the intention of like, I'm going to buy all of these things for X amount, charge it to a credit card, I'm going to sell 90% of it, my collection's making me money now. But I couldn't think that way because I was so like against the idea of like resellers are killing our hobby. That was going to happen no matter what, right? Just becoming prohibitively expensive. So I feel like I missed a big opportunity because now like, we went out to the garage sales and I found everything from a complete Wii U set, a bunch of PS4 and 360 games and some action figures and stuff. But like
those DBZ movie collection figures are Nice. I was like, man, I didn't know I needed that until I saw it in the group chat.
This is the problem.
We got to talk about that Wii U, though.
Yeah, that's what you said before. It's already on eBay.
It is the old. Oh, shit. What are you asking for that with all games and everything?
I'm selling the amiibo separately.
Well, yeah, I mean, you gotta. And I don't think that any of those, like, I don't need those. Maybe Kirby, but.
Kirby sold already, my friend. I have it up for $249 on.
You got any homie prices? Because.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Okay.
But
I saw we could do it live. I thought it'd make for good listening.
You can put me on the spot?
Because I told you I got stupid money right now, and
yeah,
it's the only Nintendo console I don't own right now.
Nick, you're right. Backsliding. I keep buying these things. I found some stuff at a thrift store yesterday, and I was like, I could just keep it because it was such a good deal. And next thing you know, I'm like, oh yeah, copy of Advance Wars. Never played it, but like it's a good game, so I'll just keep it. No, I'll try it out first to justify it. But like, I just keep it.
You would like Advance Wars. It's like Wargroove.
Probably easier.
Oh, definitely. Much easier, yeah. Because indie games based on beloved franchises from the past are often, oh yeah, we played the hell out of that game, so now we can improve on it and also make it way too complicated.
I got a box copy of Pokemon Crystal.
Didn't you already have that?
Oh, Nick, I found a fucking goddamn, such a perfect copy of that game. Such a perfect copy of the game at the expo with you. I paid up for it at like $320, I think, which was absurd in 2015. Absurd. But I just had to have it, and it was so minty. I mean, literally, it was like fresh out of the factory. Everything but the fucking shrink, dude.
Right off the Target shelf.
But I sold it a couple years later and have always regretted it. And because now a copy like that would sell for $1,000. It's absurd. But yeah, I got a pretty beat up copy. I had to pay separately to complete it with like a manual from here and an insert from there. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll make a few $100 on this. Or I could just put it in the closet with everything else.
You should, man. I mean, that's like your favorite or second favorite Pokemon game of all time. Like, why the fuck wouldn't you? And it's in our top 10. Like, keep it.
You don't need a box copy.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I could always get one later.
When the value goes higher.
Stop
no,
it.
that's
I know.
Dumb. EJ, keep this fucking copy. I don't care how beat to shit it is. Keep it. You love this game. You love this game. And if the whole point of collecting, to be a reformed collector, is just to have things that really matter to you, why in God's name would you not keep this game?
Oh, Nick's sending me the price charting. You're killing me, dude.
That's just the loose price.
What's the loose price right now?
$120.
On Crystal version?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gone down. I mean, well, I think it was the Game Boy Advance ones that were like hovering on 150 pretty often, but yeah.
I got to replace my battery on my Crystal version because I cannot save, but I do have it. God, hang on. Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna run upstairs and grab something. It's gonna affect.
I'm trying to both like make some money while I'm sitting around doing nothing, waiting for the things that I have scheduled this summer, but also just like, idle hands of the devil's plaything, like just something to do. I got 10,000 steps in on Saturday, went garage selling. I'm like, if I can make a few $100.
Tell me about the things that you are like finding, but just not getting because they don't interest you. Is there anything that sort of falls into that category? Or is it mostly people being like, I know what I have and asking for like way too much?
Yeah, it's mostly that. I found a few guys who had like Super Nintendo games and like, they're over, Mario for $40. And it's like, it's a $15 game for Super Mario World, like, I don't like buying, like, a lot of people now, you're just finding fucking...
Here's my gaming TV, and it's just like some old Panasonic CRT, and they want $150 for it. It's like, you couldn't pay me to lift that thing for $150.
Bro, the CRT market is insane right now, and if I see them, I'm picking them up. Like, I was messaging people today about them. It's getting crazy out there.
Just for regular old bad TVs, too.
Yeah, even ones without decent hookups. But I'm kind of into anything if the price is right. Like today... And this is the thing that I regret back in the day of like, no, I won't resell. Like that's, it's bad. So if there's a deal to be had, but I didn't want it or I didn't have the money, I left it when I could have just been fucking charging it, making money and just recycling.
It is time and investment though. I mean, to be fair, you were much more liquid now than you were in 2015.
Much more so. That is true. And so you can kind of justify being like, like I spent like $1,000 this weekend, but like, yeah, I'm going to triple my money when everything sells. And I've been doing the eBay thing now consistently for a few years. So
you got the ratings.
Right. Today I got to upgrade my DS Lite. I got a really clean DS Lite with a copy of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of the Sky. and a couple other knickknacks for like $120, which is like, okay, $120. That game, I literally just sold it as we're sitting here. I listed it as we started recording, and I just sold it for $180. So I got paid to upgrade my DS.
That's wild.
And now I'll sell my old scratched up DS for a minty one. And it's crazy. So anyway, it's just sort of right now it's more of just a hobby and a way to make a few extra bucks while I'm waiting for more editing work. I'm just sitting here thinking like, man, what did I miss 10 years ago when I was really collecting, you know?
I ran upstairs. Like a week and a half into my stay up in Anchorage, my buddy Cody, who got me up here, plops this down on the table, and it's a
Describe
Mad Catz. It's a Mad Catz. It's a game case of some kind. It's a Mad Catz, and I'm just like, what is this? He's like, well, it was just sitting in storage, and like I don't play it, but I figured like you might want to play it, so like I dug it out, and it's got his GBA SP in there, the blue one, not the red one, which is objectively
the dark
superior.
blue or the pearl blue? Is it the 101 or the okay? So it's the OG.
Dark. With the front light.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, cool. And I start looking through the games he has in here. And I don't say this out loud, but he's sitting on like a fucking gold mine.
All the RPGs and Castlevanias.
Absolutely like pristine copies of like Golden Sun, The Lost Ark, Minish Cap, WarioWare, Sapphire, Emerald, like one of the best looking Pokemon Red carts I've seen in a long fucking time. An absolutely pristine Pokemon Crystal. The GBA wireless adapter. Oh, fuck yeah, they're authentic.
The Pokemons are probably just an easy grand right there.
Oracle of Seasons.
Oracles have gone up recently, haven't they?
Yep.
Yeah, they have. And 2 copies of Four Swords on the GBA, presumably because he was playing with other people. And I was just looking at this like, I don't even like hardly want to touch this almost, just because like this is such an instant cash flow for you. If I were a lesser man, I'd be like, yeah, you're not playing these. Like, I'll buy them from you for like $200 and just like scalp the fuck out of them. But I'm not a lesser man. And also, I'd probably keep most of them anyway, because this crystal version is just goddamn tasty to look at.
Listen, you make a deal with him, then we trade for the Wii U, and then everyone's happy. You know what I mean?
I have way more value here than that fucking Wii U, and you goddamn know it.
You could probably trade just Crystal for the Wii U.
Yeah.
And EJ would still come out on top.
Yeah, no, this thing is like it makes me want to bark like a dog. It's in such good condition. Like, I can't fucking believe. And I'm just like, Cody, goddamn. He's got quite a PSP collection too, and I might buy that from him because I don't have a PSP either.
The retro game thing is just crazy. And for a while I was like, I'll just emulate everything. And the Analog Pocket makes it easy. But man, there's just something about, again, the ephemera, opening the box and pulling out all the different slips, and it's, oh, Pokemon the Movie 2000 and a fucking Nintendo Power, check the boxes and mail it in for your subscription, and it's just the experience. It takes me to a place that I can't get to on my own.
Yeah, you're not buying these games to play them, you're buying them to relive an experience.
And play them, but yes, it's about the whole package, you know?
Yeah, but you wouldn't want to play them if you hadn't played them already.
That's true, which is why I'm not like, okay, time to go collect all the fucking Metroid games complete in box, because that would just be sick. That'd truly be...
Yeah, it's not something you have a love for.
Anyway, there's my fucking rant and what I've been doing the last couple weeks. Having fun with it, making a little money, really trying hard not to go back down this rabbit hole. Like,
So
it's...
what'd you pay for that Wii U box? $60?
Oh, man. Yes. And I gotta tell you, I didn't pick up anything on that day of garage selling that I didn't ask for. This was a huge community sale that we stumbled into. We got up early to be at this particular sale that was advertised, and we show up, and it's a community sale of like fucking 50, 60 houses. It was crazy. All day. It was like lemonade on every corner, signs, they're flying planes in the air with advertisements on it. It was like this 24th annual event. It was crazy. It's like 4th of July for fucking people buying tchotchkes in the fucking front lawn. Everything I got was by asking. Hey, you go up, you see some old people. Hey, you got any video games? No. Oh, Nintendo, Game Boy. Oh, we have a Nintendo. Great. That's what I meant by video games. This one lady, probably 45. Oh, my kids have a Wii U. I'm like, yeah, perfect. Great. Oh, did he want to sell that? bring out a backpack that's already in the garage up in storage. Like they're just storing it in this old backpack. They bring it out.
Some kid's gonna be very unhappy when they come back home to that.
Well, they got a Switch now. Ain't no one give a fuck about the Wii U. They got a Switch.
Yeah, fuck a Wii U. But
Yeah.
also,
Oh, they don't want the GameCube. They already have the Wii.
I mean, that's how kids think, though.
When they say like a 45-year-old lady with like an 18-year-old kid who just left for college, that's not out of the question, right?
No, it's like little kids, like kids who really don't care.
Oh yeah, they don't matter. They're not even people.
Well, I'm just saying, like a little kid, they get the shiny new thing the next year. They don't care about the old shit anymore. You know? Daniel,
Until they do.
Until they do again. Daniel, I got his Wii U.
And they'll be buying it back from you.
Yeah, no
on
shit.
eBay.
No shit. And, like Daniel gave me his 3DS, his Wii U, like all this shit. And I'm like, I'm not gonna sell like most of Daniel's stuff. Like the Wii U, he doesn't give a fuck about. But like, I'm gonna keep the 3DS. And in 10 years, he'll fucking be like, oh, remember that? And I'll have it, his 2DS and the Darth Vader case and everything. And he'll be like, oh my God. It'll be a moment for him, you know? But he doesn't give a shit right now because he's an idiot kid.
Yeah.
As all kids
I was that idiot kid.
Yes.
I was that idiot kid. Good for you for looking out for him.
He doesn't deserve you.
No one does.
Certainly not us.
Okay. Anyway, thanks for indulging my fucking rant. Dude, Chris, those If Labs movie collection figures,
That's great.
I paid up for them a little bit, but I was like, babe, are you sure we can't keep one? I'll keep Lunchbox Krillin in the weird spacesuit, and I'll keep like Goku and Piccolo. I'll sell the other three, okay? No. This is a dangerous game I'm playing, okay?
Yeah, don't
Dangerous.
You don't need any of them. I mean, they're nice, but like, who fucking cares about Lord Slug and Cooler's Revenge? Like, those movies are so fucking mid, dude. And I have had Lord Slug on VHS, and that movie's stupid. It's really,
Tree of
really.
Might.
Oh, Tree of Might. So okay, but World's Strongest is the best. Like, that's not a question. Like, it is the best.
Dead Zone.
Dead Zone's okay.
It's dumb, but I like it.
They're all pretty bad.
I agree. Yeah, Tree of Might is good, but World's Strongest actually, honest to God, is really fucking good. I just rewatched that with some guys at UNCG, with the Ocean dub, which is the one that I grew up on with World's Strongest, of like hearing it air on Toonami, and I was like, man, like the screaming is so different. But I kind of like the Canadian dude's Goku screams more because it's way more like directional. I don't know, like it's hard to explain, but it like scratches a specific itch to hear the Ocean dub again. And I was like, man, this movie's cool. Like Roshi gets to kind of like fuck ass for a second, and like Goku obviously gets to kick ass. We get some like Krillin and Piccolo moments, like the final fight against the fucking like android guy with a group Kamehameha's tight as shit. Like, oh, that movie's great.
You ain't wrong. Let's talk about the Sony stuff real quick that happened I know it's 2 weeks ago at this point, but we all had a little bit to say about it. Sony Showcase, don't really care about much of it. Let's just get right into the fucking handheld, all right? I want to get your thoughts. Nick, what do you think about this? I don't even know what they ended up actually calling it, but it's literally a tablet with a DualSense attached.
It just has a project. It's Project Q or something Q. You know, it's just QAnon shit. You know how the boomers love that.
Yep.
Yeah, they took a little tablet. They put the DualSense controller, and they're probably going to charge way too much for it, for something that is not actually like playing the games on the console. It's just a streaming device. You can do the exact same using your phone and a Kishi or whatever other, you know, controller that you want to plug into it. And yeah, it's really unexciting, and I don't see the reason for them to sell it. I mean, it's just a Wi-Fi device. It's just streaming the games from your console. I don't think it even works with like PS Now, the subscription service that you pay for. So it's a very strange accessory to try and sell.
Nintendo puts out the Switch, right? They start to zig, right? The rest of the industry takes a couple years, but now they're zigging, right? Sony decides to zag. They're like, whatever. We're just going to double down on this thing that we've been trying to push the entire PS4's lifespan. It never worked. Still doesn't work unless you're in a very niche use case where you've got just fucking like ass blasting internet and, you know, a device capable of broadcasting a high enough bit rate to fucking actually play it. I've used it on my iPad. It's fucking terrible. I couldn't even play a South Park game remotely. God forbid you're trying to play an online game or a 3D action game that requires some amount of precision. And in a world where the Steam Deck is a massive success and you have all of these crazy handhelds following in their footsteps, everyone trying to just make a more powerful Switch that you can play your PC games on, Sony has an opportunity to not only capitalize on the current market as it's booming, but to correct the mistakes of the Vita and do something that, albeit a smaller niche, has been clamoring for years, but to expose a massive audience. I mean, think since the Vita launched, the kind of explosion Sony has had in their PlayStation brand. It's baffling. I don't understand it.
Yeah, the handheld section from Sony has always been very strange. I feel like it's hard to understand, I guess. I don't have a strong grasp on the success of the PSP, and the Vita was clearly a failure. I mean, it's like Wii U numbers, which is like, for a global brand like Sony, is not enough. But the PSP, just going by console sales, was over 80 million units, which is fantastic, especially for their first foray into the market. But it was also competing against the DS, which doubled that. So it's not really a good comparison. And then I also don't know how well it did in software. I know PSP was rampant with piracy, and like that thing was cracked on day one. That was what I used my PSP mostly for, was playing SNES and NES games. And it was just a great emulator device. So I think Sony just has different visions for what they want out of their games output, especially now that they're doing this extreme pivot into the games as a service marketplace. I don't think that lives well on a streaming device, because a lot of those games are action competitive games. You know, you're not going to want to play Warzone on a streaming device in your, like, as a handheld, right? And that's a huge part of Sony's like software marketplace right now, is selling these games that you keep buying the currency for. You buy the battle pass for, you jump in and you play with your friends once, like every night. Does this have a headphone jack? Are you going to be like listening to your, are you be like team chat in this? Do people want to do that? Because you have to have a PS5 to use this thing. Why wouldn't you just use your big ass TV and your Sony PS5? I just don't understand like what the point of the device even is.
I mean, you're not going to a fucking hotel on a road trip and hooking up to hotel Wi-Fi and streaming your PS5 over this.
No, and
shot.
apparently it's got like, I mean, the whole thing, obviously this was, we talked about this like what, a month ago? 2 months ago? People were, that had been leaked, you know, people had been talking about insiders and stuff. And those same insiders are now saying, yeah, and also the battery life is bad because it has all the same guts as a DualSense, which has a horrendous battery life. So you're going to be playing on not hotel Wi-Fi, you're going to be playing in your own house with a 2-hour battery life device. Like, it's asinine.
It's completely silly. Can I give you some breaking news here?
Certainly, please.
I jazzed about breaking news. One, I just got a refund offer on this damaged copy of Pokemon Crystal for $150 back, which means I probably will keep it, because that means I just got a complete in-box copy for $265. I'll sell the game itself, and I'll have gotten a pretty messed up box, but for like $100. So anyway, I like that. Second,
breaking news.
We have the next wave of Nintendo Online games that just got announced just mere moments ago.
Ooh, what is it?
Classic games or refreshes of classic games? Is this the Tetris 99 block, or is it and now another Game Boy Advance remake of an SNES game?
No. Just the for their online service. We are getting Harvest Moon on the Super Nintendo.
Cool.
Which kind of fucks.
Yeah, that game rules.
Man, I owned that game on Super Nintendo for a long time, and I ended up selling it. And that's another one of those like regrets you have when you look at the price of that now.
Yeah.
Game Boy Color, Kirby Tilt and Tumble.
Yo, let's go.
Yeah.
That game rules. I was playing that like last year. That was like one of the first games I played on the analog, and dude, that game is really awesome. Actually,
it's very cool.
That's really cool. I hope they have it work with the Pro Controller on the TV as well, and not just in handheld mode.
We're getting Blaster Master Enemy Below on the Game Boy Color.
Yo, that game rules too.
I don't know anything about it. What's that game about?
Well, Blaster Master was a series that started on the NES and was kind of like an OG sort of very, I don't know what you sort of classify these games as, where it's like a mashup between two different styles of gameplay, two different like perspectives primarily. I think of stuff like Battletoads having different levels that are very different from each other, or even I can't think of ActRaiser on SNES, where it's like, this part you're flying around as this weird angel, but then you go into these dungeons and you're a 2D action fighting guy. Similar to that. So you're going around this overworld in this like mech tank, and it's a 2D sort of Metroidvania platformer, and then you go into these little rooms, and then it's a top-down 2D like shooter. So you're just like a little guy running around doing shooting stuff.
Damn.
They ended up doing like a I don't know if you'd call it like spiritual sequel because they were literally called Blaster Master, but different dev team. It was done by Inti Creates, who did a bunch of those sort of rehashed NES reimaginings kind of stuff. Like they did Mega Man 9 and 10. They did the 2D, not Castlevania, but Bloodstained. They did the Bloodstained Curse of the Moon games. So they did a Blaster Master EX, I think was the suffix on that. But yeah, those games are awesome too. So it's really cool that we get a sort of strange sequel, because it was a series that's not really a series because it just sort of came and went.
Right.
Sunsoft is a very strange publisher, as you're probably aware of, just knowing the NES and the sort of the history of old ass games and weird Japanese like AA fly by night kind of publishers. But yeah, I mean, Blaster Master is really cool, and the Game Boy sequel is actually pretty cool too.
We're also getting on the Famicom Mystery Tower.
I don't think I'm familiar with that.
It's a puzzle game.
Okay.
Which tells you a lot. I don't know much about it either, but yeah, at least we're getting a couple of decent titles. Like, I hate the slow trickle, but
Oracle's games or bust.
No GBA or N64 though.
No, sadly.
So that's all just like low tier. I wonder if they're gonna like announce like in a couple weeks, like because what was the last one they did? Was the trilogy of the Mario Advance games that was put out
pretty recent too.
It's like last week, but I mean that was sort of a foregone conclusion. Like we had gotten Mario Advance 4 because it had all the e-reader games, and like that's cool. Like that's a cool and exciting way to experience that game. Whereas Yoshi's Island is just a worse version of Yoshi's Island that you can already play on the service. Same with Mario World. Same with Mario 2. You know, so
well, I mean that is the definitive edition of Mario 2 as discussed.
No, OG Mario 2 is much better.
In what way?
Doesn't have the weird Charles Martinet voice acting for one, and it's the same physics as like the weird sort of changed up version from Mario All Stars. So I would much rather play the NES version personally.
Yeah, I just did.
And also putting the Mario World sound font onto the original Mario trilogy from the NES never really sat too well with me. I like the original chiptune a lot more.
Yeah, different strokes, I guess.
Different strokes, dude. You took the words out of my mouth.
But they're all available, so 3 different ways for you to play Mario Bros. 3. Thanks, Nintendo.
Back to the Sony stuff briefly. Chris, you played Spider-Man 2018, right? Or have you not gotten to that?
Nope, it's on the list for fall when I get back, because I know I can get a free upgrade to the PS5 version.
Dang. I labeled this in my notes, Spider-Man nontroversy. People were pretty pissed after this the gameplay reveal, which really surprised me. But we don't have to deep dive. People on Twitter, I don't know. I mean, in the gaming sphere, it was a hotly contested topic for 24 hours.
What are they mad about?
They made Spider-Man black.
Oh, no.
I mean,
people are just, it is in their monetary interest to be mad at something every week.
People complaining about, it took them fucking 5 years to make a game that looks the same as, it did on the PS4. That kind of bullshit, which I thought was ridiculous. Just saying they didn't show off anything interesting, but dude, they showed off fucking a sick intro for Kraven. Obviously we have Black Suit. There's got to be a proper Venom storyline, and whether that ends up being, I don't want to spoil anything for Chris, but
dirt in your eye.
There's a lot of really potential cool directions they could go based on the first game with how, with Venom's origin and who becomes Venom. And obviously like he's got the black suit, so they're going to go into that. It's going to be little Peter versus Miles. But I don't know. I thought it was completely ridiculous. I was completely thrilled with what they showed, and I can't wait to be back in that world. The map's going to be way bigger, so you're not just in fucking downtown, goddamn fucking New York the whole time. Like, it's everything so far that I could have possibly asked for a Spider-Man sequel, and I can't fucking wait to play it.
I think the only thing you could really like come away from that showcase and being disappointed in Spider-Man, I think it's more just a disappointment in the showcase altogether, because
yes,
everything they showed was like, okay, this is either you're showing me nothing from all these first party studios that you buy and you've got a CG trailer or just a title treatment, and that's all. And then you end with one of the most known quantity games of all time with a sequel to a great game, but you know exactly what it's going to be. So it's sort of just like the frosting was not enough. You know, you need to have an actual cake underneath that frosting.
I don't really go into these showcases with expectations anymore if Nintendo's name is not attached. And even then, like, we should know better. it was billed as like the future of PlayStation, right? Like it was supposed to be.
Well, it'd been 2 years since they'd really shown off what's coming. And if you are invested in the Sony ecosystem, it's likely because you like their first party output, and they don't have anything really for the people who like Sony games. You have Spider-Man to look forward to, and then Wolverine after that, which they also didn't show.
Right.
So like, what's everyone up to? What are they doing? Like the things that we do know, it's like, oh, Naughty Dog's in trouble with their games as service game, or the studio that hasn't made anything before is having trouble with their games as service game. So it's like, well, what's next, I guess.
Right. Somebody had tweeted something about Metroid Prime 4. And I know we've talked about sort of the idea of like announcing a game too soon just to put it out there. Like, don't worry, it's in development. But that has led to a lot of bad fucking PR for some of these companies. And someone had tweeted like, okay, seriously, is this game all right? Tears of the Kingdom release under 4 years after reveal. Prime reset was 4.5 years ago and they ain't said a word. And I'm like, okay, not only did Tears of the Kingdom take 6 years to develop on top of a game that also took 6 years to develop, and Metroid like needs a similar refresh. No, they completely reset this game 4.5 years ago for obviously a good reason and gave it to a completely different studio. Like, no, it is definitively not all right. And so you go into these showcases and you would hope that after 2 years, Sony has something to fucking show. But I also understand that, like, okay, we're not going to slap a bunch of splash screens together because it could lead to years of bullshit. Or even it could a cyberpunk thing where you announce a thing, people get hyped about it, you show it, and then you have this pressure to like, we have to get it out, we have to get it out. Investors are expecting it, fans are expecting it, and you put it out and it's a complete shit show. It needed 2 more years in the oven. But because you announced it 5 years ago, you don't have 2 years anymore. That ship has sailed.
And that's why Nintendo does things the way they do usually outside of that E3, where they really needed to swing big. And I think that was the same E3 we got. No, Smash Ultimate was a direct.
Ultimate was 18.
Yeah, it was a famously bad direct in E3 in 17.
Yeah, and we did get the announce in the Treehouse after that broadcast that like, oh, the Metroid 2 remake is coming, which is what I remember, of course. But yeah, I was like, holy shit, Metroid Prime 4. They announced like a handful of things that made me really excited, but they were all really down the line. Like it was very unusual for them, and it did bite them in the ass. So I'm kind of okay in that regard. Like, I'd rather not know what Nintendo's releasing in the fall and just like wait and know they're going to tell me within the next like 45 days, probably, than have them tell me Metroid Prime 4 is coming like 6 years ago and it's still like languishing.
Yeah, taking it back to Sony though, just looking at this as the showcase, like the way they phrased it as a showcase, they kind of put it on that E3 pedestal as far as this is the tier of announcements you should be expecting from this event. If this was 2 state of plays spread out over a couple months, it would have been totally fine. This would have been like a really reasonable half-hour show. They cut out half of it, and it's just like, oh, and Spider-Man stuff, awesome. Still no date. That's fine. I mean, they say fall. We trust Insomniac. But when it's a showcase and the one game that you have for the fall that's first party just still says fall 2023, like that doesn't lead to a lot of confidence in it.
Right.
No.
Like, oh, we're remaking Metal Gear Solid, but not the one you all thought. And also we have no date.
And also no gameplay or developer.
And like, to be fair, I think it makes sense to do 3 because it is sort of like the beginning chronologically of like the story of Boss and Big Boss. And so it makes sense in that regard more than Metal Gear Solid 1. R.I.P. Bryn's unreleased game slot, though, or unannounced game slot. That was kind of a big boner. Yeah,
Oof.
real lemon of a showcase.
You know, I saw it both ways on Twitter. Like I didn't, I always bring up Twitter, but that's like where I'm getting instant reactions from people who have their finger on the pulse, right?
And hopefully you're taking into consideration mostly the people that you're following and not just the things that kind of float into your feed because they're incendiary and they just get a lot of reactions because it's like weirdos that are like, oh, we gamers truly are the most oppressed creatures on the planet or whatever.
Right. No, I'm mostly following like, personalities, quote unquote, like guys whose podcasts I listen to every week. And they're responding to a lot of the fucking unhinged whatever that is out there. And I can't imagine being like, even someone like Jeff Gersman or Brian Altano, who are just not very inflammatory and not terribly active outside of self-promotion, like even their mentions are probably fucking disasters. I can't imagine the people who are terminally online. It's got to be disgusting.
Glad to not be in that space.
1,000%. But I see it all.
It's a taste.
Yeah, none of it matters to like the industry at large. Like we are 1%, less than 1% of the people who are buying video games.
As far as a marketing beat, I think we can all agree that the showcase was like an unforced sort of error. Like they kind of looked at the rake and they jumped on it. I don't know what they succeeded in with this showing.
I saw some people just stoked that like, oh, we got Spider-Man details and we got Metal Gear Remake and we got Metal Gear Collection. And like there were things for people. It's how we usually feel after a Nintendo showcase. There were things for us, but then half the internet's like, that fucking sucked.
It's just that a lot of the things that, I don't know, like they talked about so many games of service titles, and that's just so not exciting and not interesting. I don't care about your $sign at the end of your game name and you're talking about Beat the Rich or whatever. Like it's just such bait and like bad design and lingo, and it's cringe as hell. It's awful. It's just really just the lowest of the low, scraping the bottom of the barrel.
It's the direction we're going in. Like, as much as we complain, I remember we had this fucking discourse in 2015 about goddamn loot boxes, and loot boxes were ruining video games, you know? And that was sort of the beginning as like a games as a service. And it was just the gambling aspect. It was just the slot machine. And now it has permeated every aspect of every system in these games. It's not skins anymore. It's everything. And it fucking sucks. You know, the always online and having to play with, you brought up fucking Redfall. And we saw some of the leaks from Arcane about how like they were pushing to just reset the whole thing.
Yeah, they internally they wanted it canceled.
How depressing does that have to be? Your only job is making this game. And if they cancel this game, congrats, you don't have a job. And still being like, please cancel this game. Like my reputation.
Well, no, I mean for them, it's their job then becomes let's make a different game.
Maybe.
Let's make a game like sort of like the games that the studio is known for and not try to pigeonhole ourselves into this completely different genre because our owners think this is the next big thing and we got to jump on the money train while it's still plugging along.
As we've seen over and over, these companies make these egregious mistakes. Nintendo gets a little big for their britches. They put out a couple of boner consoles in a row. Boom, they have a Wii. Sony sells more units than fucking there are people on the planet with the PS2. They get a little big for their britches. Boom, they crash with the PS3. But they're back on top of the world. Look at Capcom. Their name was fucking mud 8-9 years ago. Slowly but surely, you know, EA, joke of the industry. They've completely traded places with Ubisoft, slowly but surely, coming back from some of their mistakes, listening to the community, trying to put out some solid titles. So it all swings back around eventually. A company that's worth a damn, they have so much money that like they can't fuck up so bad that these companies they're just gonna go under, right? Like Microsoft, you said it last time, Nick. They have more money than God. They're not going anywhere. So they can fuck up and they'll figure it out.
I just don't want Sony to turn into Ubisoft.
It would be really fucking unfortunate because they still, to me, produce like the most interesting AAA titles, other than the occasional like Nintendo home run. Nintendo's like reliably B to A minus, but Sony can crush A pluses so hard, so consistently that it would be a big loss for me.
Yeah, all just to chase a trend.
Yeah, right. Like who fucking cares?
If you want to fucking make Minecraft 2.0, make Minecraft 2.0. You're going to fail, but at least make it a separate thing. You don't have to try and turn all the things we like into Fortnite or what are the kids playing? Valorant.
They're playing
Apex.
Fortnite. They're playing Roblox. I literally, day one of camp today was like, give me your name and give me something you like to do that's not related to art. Bunch of different kids. All like, oh, video games. Oh, cool. What are you playing right now? Minecraft, Roblox, or Fortnite? All of them. Literally all of them. None of them had a different answer. That's fucking crazy to me. I'm like, there are like real games you can play.
But when they're free and on their phones and their iPads and their refrigerators.
Well, a lot of them are playing Minecraft on Switch, which makes sense because you can just like don't clog up the TV and still keep playing your video game, right? Like, I get it. Or Switch Lite, probably, a lot of these kids. But it still was, I was just sad. And I'm like, none of you are playing Zelda? Like, man, come on. Like,
so when we were at the beach last week and Daniel came out and was playing Zelda and he was just enamored with it. But, he, you know, at the end of the day, he's 14 now. You know, his 3DS went the way of the dodo and it's at my house now. His Switch, same thing. played it a little bit, but you know, he always had the iPad, and then he got his PC a couple years ago, and that's all he wants to do. Why would I play the Switch? I can do anything on the PC, and it's better in his eyes. He played Zelda, wants to play Zelda, wants to get it, but it would require spending $70 and like getting the Switch out, you know? Apparently that's just not convenient enough for the youth. Also, you can't play Zelda with your friends. And when you're a kid, you want to be with your people. For us, single player games were an escape from like our parents because we couldn't always be with our friends. We weren't always connected. We didn't have text messaging. We didn't have FaceTime. We didn't have fucking Discord. When you were home, you were isolated from the world, and it was just you and your parents. And, you know, nowadays it's like, I don't ever have to be alone if I don't want to be. It's a different world for these kids. Anyway, we've kind of gone all over the map.
I also wanted to remind the both of you of a image I just shared in the Discord chat. If you wanted
for
to,
fuck's sake, yeah, I'm going there.
I'm glad you
All
gotta
right,
do
you know
this.
what? God damn it. Thank you for reminding me. So Aspyr, when they announced the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 Switch port, included very prominently in all of their release materials, it is going to include the restored content mod as free DLC in the future. The target was initially fourth quarter 2022. We're way fucking past that, obviously, and there had been no new updates. A couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, they scrubbed all mention of the restored content from the initial release materials, and it still just said quarter 4 2022. So I'm seeing the writing on the wall at this point personally, but I'm going to withhold. Maybe this is something else I'm just not thinking of. No, it got fucking canceled. They released a statement that were like, no explanation at all, said it's not happening. You're welcome to a download code on Switch for one of these other like fine Star Wars titles, which yeah, fuck that. Like, no, I don't want to play Republic Commando on my Switch. Like, no, no, absolutely not.
What a consolation.
One of the modders in the community, who was responsible for the restored content mod, spoke out today against the notion that the problem was that Aspyr didn't want to properly credit the modding community for this, and that was like tying things up, and that's part of why it got canceled.
Absurd.
Well, it never made sense to me, right? Because this has been an officially sanctioned mod by Aspyr for like years, like decade plus even at this point, I think. And he spoke in and he was like, yeah, this is absolutely not. Like Aspyr was like working to credit us before I even knew what this was that they were trying to like work to give us credit for. So I would expect it's because they're stretched so thin with trying to do this Knights of the Old Republic remake that's vaporware at this point, like dead in the water at this point.
and they're not making that thing.
Right, but that's where a lot of their resources are knotted up until it gets canceled. But that was so incredibly disappointing and frustrating because I shelled out for a fucking limited run copy of this game, and I have it under the idea that I would be able to play it in its restored form, as we discussed on this pod in the 100th episode, talking about KOTOR 2, is the definitive way to play it. I don't want to play this game as it was released again. I have no need to play this game as it was released again. So I basically have a $35 waste of space sitting in my display case right now that frankly, I feel like I should get my fucking money back for. Like, fuck a game code. Like, give me my money back. Like, I don't want this.
You should absolutely draft an angry email to Limited Run because, and I know it's not Limited Run's fault, but unfortunately, being the middleman in this situation, it's on them too. But they advertised this game as containing, and then eventually they fucking dragged it on, and they had to make the cart without the fucking update.
Not on the cart. Doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It ain't real.
It ain't fucking real. And that is quite frustrating. Chris, you try to get your money back. And I'm glad I almost went and spent, $95 plus shipping on eBay to get a copy of this because I got my KOTOR 1 special edition. I completely missed KOTOR 2. I didn't even know it existed until a few months ago. I want both, especially with that restored content mod, playing a proper port meant to be used with controller and not some facsimile of what a controller is supposed to do. The way Steam does it would have been amazing, and this is a huge bummer that it turned out this way. The pessimist in me says this was always a scam. This was always a scam. This company, nobody ever trusted these people, and all the intentions in the world. Maybe it was just the head of this little dev team who was like, oh, we can definitely do it. And they made promises before those promises could be vetted and confirmed by the people who actually wield any sort of power. But like I said, I look at it like this is always a scam. This was a way to get people to buy copies of a fucking game that wasn't complete 20 years ago, isn't complete now. And they sold their copies. They made their fucking money. They licensed it out to a company like Limited Run, sold out of that. And here we are. Isn't the KOTOR remake fucking dead? Like officially dead?
Not officially.
It's still listed on their like games and development in their most recent quarterly post. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah, the last investor call that Embracer had, someone had asked about it, and the CEO is like, "Oh, my favorite question," and then someone else asked a question, and he didn't actually have to end up getting back to that. But this is also the same investor call where they lost 40% of their stock price in a single day because they had like a $2 billion deal drop out the day before. So, what do you think is surviving that? Is it the KOTOR remake? Probably not.
It's dead. It's gone.
They spent all that money on that CG trailer and vaporware.
Well, Chris, you said that your wife Tiffany had a bone to pick with our console tier list, so maybe we hash that out.
It's brief, and then I think we could still do the tier list in like an hour, because there's a lot of these that are like pretty plainly not, like we don't even need to devote time to really talking about them, because I'm sure we haven't played these games. Like I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh,
Legendary Starfy is a B.
Well, exactly. I was like, are we literally going to spend
Captain Rainbow
any
A.
more time than like 30 seconds talking about Rhythm Heaven or ARMS? Like none of us played ARMS. We're not talking about ARMS.
Elite
None
Beat
of us
Agents.
played
I played
Icarus,
ARMS.
Kid Icarus. We're not talking about Kid Icarus. Yeah, Tiffany is an N64 stan, a really, really staunch N64 stan. And, you know, God love her for it. But yeah, she was very upset with our placement of N64 and specifically our discussion about the fact that it has no good games. And she listed such titles as Mario 64, Mario Kart, Super Smash Brothers, Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, and GoldenEye 007. And she's like, you are all goddamn liars if you're going to tell me right now you didn't spend hours running around in big head mode with karate chops only, trying to fucking kill each other in GoldenEye 007. And while I completely agree with the sentiment that many an hour was Wild Way in those days, I will double down on exactly what I told her via text message, which is none of these games are fucking fun to play anymore. And the jump from 2D to 3D was an awkward one. And 2D games are forever. I can always go play Donkey Kong Country 2. It will always feel good. It will always play good. It will always make sense. I could barely get through like Paper Mario 1 these days.
That's
Skill
a shame.
issue.
That's a shame. It's still a great game.
It's not a skill issue. If there's no fast travel system and the way the leveling and enemies on the overworld works is fucking stupid, it's bad design.
Oh man, Metroid Prime must not be a good game either. No fast travel.
Fast travel if you know your routes.
Okay, so you're just okay. All right. So the thing about the N64, I mean, yeah, you look at going back. Completely agree, Chris. I would rather go play a Super Nintendo game or a GameCube game. At the time, was playing the vastly superior console in the PlayStation, and all of those games, or most of the games that are great on the N64, are either remakes like Star Fox, so closely tied to the Game Boy, like Pokemon Stadium, or had a better sequel that came out within like 18 months in 007 and Smash Bros. And fucking Mario Kart. But they were so close that it was almost like, yeah, I mean, the N64 had such a little blip. It sold like crap, so as much nostalgia as there is for it, nobody fucking played it. There's like 260 fucking games on the console. It's great to have nostalgia with it. We obviously missed the boat. It is still one of the worst consoles Nintendo has made. And it's not a personal insult to anyone who loves N64. Nick, like you said earlier, you like it quite a bit more than either of us. I hope you don't feel your character is attacked when we sit here saying how bad Mario 64 is.
No, I sleep well at night knowing that the majority of people on Earth agree with me that Mario 64 is a good game.
Those people also think Ocarina of Time is the best game ever made. And that is an unhinged fucking take too. So
The best means a lot of different things, EJ.
And Ocarina of Time is none of them.
Thank you, Chris. Chris, we can agree on so many things the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, what the fuck is going on? Like the axis has like shifted and now like Nick and I are sniping at each other. I mean, respectfully, because neither one of us is as fucking crazy as you are, Eej, but still, it's just it's been weird to agree with you so much.
Oh,
The N64 excelled in a lot of genres that none of us are super into as well, which makes it sort of, in retrospect, not as enticing. Like, if you're a racing fan, there's a million good racing games on the N64, and not even just vehicle racers. Like, you talk about like Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, F-Zero, Wave Race, 1080 snowboarding, the Snowboard Kids games from Konami, Beetle Adventure Racing, actually a good-ass game, good cruising games. I mean, there's just a ton of like action, like racing sports games on the N64 that none of us really got that into. My brother had NFL Blitz, and that was like a pretty fun arcade port from what I could tell.
I'm glad you said arcade port, because I was like, you're describing like the second wave of arcade ports that we were just talking about with the SNES, where it was all like beat 'em up side scroller arcade quarter eaters, and then it's like, well, we have better graphical capabilities now. Let's get fucking cruising on there. Let's get Wave Race on there. Like,
And that was a Nintendo property. Like, you don't think about that, but they published that game in arcades and on the N64. It's kind of weird and unprecedented.
A lot of those games came to PlayStation and in a better iteration. All the best racing games were on PlayStation. All the best RPGs were on PlayStation. All the best fighting games were on PlayStation. They had a superior controller.
Jetmoto fucks.
Absolutely. It's hard to look at the N64 objectively. What does that mean, objectively? Like, it's hard to make the case that it's better than half those other consoles, and it's certainly not better than the competition in any measurable way. So it's just hard to have that conversation.
I'm not arguing that it's better in any like sense of the word. It's just that you think it's bad, but it's not bad. It's just not as good as better things.
Yeah, I mean,
It's bad.
I would reserve bad for like the Wii U.
Okay, the Wii is bad.
I put the Wii U under the Wii.
Wii's not bad.
No,
Wii's
no,
not bad.
We've been
It
over
was
this.
Great,
We've been over
incredible fucking hardware that carries a lot of that cuts a lot of ice, even though, you know, mumble software.
Bro, before the Wii, people got DVDs on Netflix.
And on that note,
I'm trying to pull up our tier list.
let's move to the second ever Console Crusade tier list.
Yeah, we've got new things to argue about, EJ. Let's not relitigate.
Thank you, Nick. Things are restored again. Like, we're both saying like fuck you, EJ. We're like moving. It's
The Overton window has shifted back.
All right, let's begin with the customary setting of the tiers, shall we? I move as always that S tier is ultra goated, but beyond that, I'm here. Oh,
Chris's
that's
internet
that.
does not like sharing his screen,
My internet doesn't like doing anything.
Yeah, not particularly.
but especially this. Here's the problem with this, in my eyes, is nothing I have to say about anything is ever going to sway the two of you. So Metroid will be fucking top tier, Zelda will be top tier.
Be more convincing.
I just can't
seriously.
be.
Skill issue.
Like, Chris just put his foot in his mouth about how all the things that made Metroid frustrating make another game frustrating, and then you completely fucking
Jesus
got about
Christ.
it. How do I make an argument that these things, like,
How
to me,
is
I'm
that
like,
the same? Paper Mario, you literally stop getting experience points for fighting creatures. It is literally meant to waste your time. It is meant to waste your time. There is no sense of progression. The battles still take as long as they always fucking take, and you get nothing for it. And you can't fucking
Don't
fast
fight those
travel.
things. They're trash mobs.
they're trying to tell you to get the fuck on with your
If they
life.
catch you from the back, you're going to take a couple points of gotcha damage when they jump in and get their first moves on you. It's annoying. It's needless.
Just like Space Pirates in Magmore.
7 seconds to vaporize in a way that doing a turn-based battle that requires a transitional screen and everybody taking their own fucking turn and an outro
Call the run
screen
button, dog.
does
Use it.
Z slide, bro. Fucking slide cancel, my guy. Jesus,
Z,
fuck.
jump. Z, jump.
Just for didn't raise no bitch, I don't run from fights,
No, you just complain about them.
which is also on brand for my mother.
True.
All right, we're going in. We are going in order, and some of these I hope to fucking God we can just get out of the way quickly because I know we don't play some of these. So we're jumping in. Oh, we haven't even set the rest of the tiers. A, B, C, D till we come up with funnier shit. Advance Wars. Did any of you play this game?
C.
C tier? Great. I didn't play it, so I don't give a fuck. C tier it is.
It's a perfectly cromulent series, but nothing of value is lost with not being around.
Well, as someone who's going to argue that Fire Emblem should be S tier, I feel like Advanced Wars I would really like. I just haven't played it, so I can't speak on it.
Well, if you like Fire Emblem purely for the tactics gameplay, then maybe you'd get something out of Advance Wars. But if you like the character interactions, then Advance Wars is not going to do it for you.
Okay. Animal Crossing.
A.
That I was literally going to suggest A,
Easy.
where I'm like, this is good. This is good, but it's not great.
Dude, it's fantastic. It achieves everything that it wants to do consistently, but it does not surpass those goals.
Bayonetta. Did any of y'all play these?
No opinion.
I played Bayonetta. They clearly have an audience. It felt old, and this was in 2015. I don't understand how an entire game can be this. I don't understand. And to have 3 of them is crazy to me. I would go like D tier based on my experience with Bayo 1.
Okay.
That sounds kind of genre inclusive though. Like, how many stylish action games are you playing, and do they ever feel like they've gone past, oh, this is like a fun PS2 game?
I played Hyrule Warriors and Bayonetta almost at the same time.
Hyrule Warriors is not a stylish action game.
It is a mindless, repetitive, shallow game, similarly to Bayonetta. We're like, yeah, there are a bunch of combos technically, but who cares? We can smash A the whole time.
What difficulty were you playing on?
On Hyrule Warriors?
No, on Bayonetta.
Oh, I don't fucking remember.
So you're probably playing on like the easiest difficulty. So I mean, that's fine. I mean, that basically turns into a button masher. Just knowing what I know of the series and of the genre.
Technically, there's a story, and for some people they love it, and some people it is hilariously cringe, and you can't believe that like it justified a sequel narratively, you know? And that's me. I was like, this is what people have been talking about
like
online.
Bygone era, you know, it's the creator of Devil May Cry coming back to a style of game that he hasn't made in a while. I mean, you get a lot of those sort of, hey, check it out. It's like that thing I used to make.
Like Metroid.
I was thinking like Inafune making Mighty Number 9.
I'm putting it in D tier, and the only reason it's not going in the newly minted CCP no play tier is because EJ played like an hour of this game, so it ducks that. Moving on, Donkey Kong. Oof, this is tough because some of these games, this has really high highs in like the Donkey Kong Country series and some fairly mid-mids. I'm going to open the bidding at B tier.
I would say that the highs floated up to A, but not a consistent A like Animal Crossing, a slippery A, like low A.
What's the last good Donkey Kong game?
I am unique in my belief and my opinion that I don't like Tropical Freeze, but Tropical Freeze was the last good
Tropical
Donkey Kong
Freeze
game, like widely
was
regarded.
great. It was really well reviewed. I enjoyed it. I did not like the way that it felt, having recently replayed the Donkey Kong Country games, but it does what it does really well, and was genuinely very challenging in the things that it offered. Bottom of A tier, borderline B. We'll see if it moves when we get other stuff up there.
Tropical Freeze is closer to being a retro title than it is a modern game. It's a fucking decade old.
Yeah, and it's still good. So I don't know what.
In 5 years, it will be a retro game, bro.
That's fine. It doesn't mean it's not good. Dr. Mario. I played like 30 minutes of this. It's a Tetris ripoff. I propose bot tier immediately.
Yeah, I don't like the block matching versions of a lot of these falling block puzzle games. Wasn't a big fan of it, especially in a game like there are so many examples like the Tetris Attacks and the Puyo Puyos where you actually, it feels more, I don't know, physics kind of oriented because you can set a block down and then the other half of the block will fall down if there's nothing below it. Whereas Dr. Mario with the pills, where they're just these solid things, it gets so unwieldy so quickly, and I never liked the way it felt. So I would say either D or bottom. Great music though, awesome sound. I mean, it's 3 songs, but it rips.
So we say bot. I don't think about it as like bottom. I think about it as like meme tier.
Do you want to add? Well, then I would like to add a meme tier category.
Dr. Mario tier?
No, specifically a meme tier.
It's like it can be good, but it's fucking fake. So who cares? Dr. Mario's fine. It's like Dr. Mario's a fucking C. Like it's fine. Like it existed.
A C? Like in a world where D tier exists, why is Dr. Mario a C?
It gets a participation trophy.
It's just average. It's C is average. It doesn't move the needle.
It's not even a franchise. That matters to me, like body of work.
What, you never played Dr. Luigi on the Wii U or Dr. Mario World on the phone?
It's going in bot tier. We're moving on.
There are 9 Dr. Mario games.
That's 3 times as many as Bayonetta.
How many of those are ports? And how many of those are clones? And how many of those are just the same fucking game every fucking time? Probably most of them. It's in bot tier.
1/200th of the entire N64 library is Dr. Mario.
Congrats, N64.
Congratulations, you did it. Fire Emblem. This game has a massive body of work. I think it's A tier easily because what it does excellently, consistently highly reviewed, excellent entries in recent memory. Like from 3DS onward, it's been like no misses, basically. I don't see how it goes below A tier.
Yeah, my argument for it being S tier is that, like, yeah, it has existed since like the fucking late 80s. It has been on every Nintendo console fucking ever. They have mostly with
Not
like
the N64 where Dr. Mario presides. Doctor in the house.
They have only gotten better with age, with like one exception, maybe. And no, there are no games like Fire Emblem. And I know that Fire Emblem lately, despite how great Three Houses was, despite how great Awakening was, despite how solid Engage is, they are trying to sort of broaden what they do as a franchise and bring in some of the Persona fans and some of the, I don't know, fucking, what's a weeboo visual novel? Danganronpa? I don't know. Like they're trying to appeal to a bigger weeboo audience.
The waifus in Fire Emblem are S tier, but I think the game series as a whole is A tier.
And I think that's the broadening of it is, as we've discussed on this podcast, some of the stuff that's like, this doesn't make any goddamn sense. You're just trying to cash grab and capitalize on people playing the mobile game where you could get any hero you want. So in Engage, we're now going to give you items that let you get any fucking hero you want, even though it makes no goddamn sense.
I completely disagree with you. It makes sense narratively. And as we talked about on a prior podcast, they actually implement the powers from a strategic standpoint, like they're meaningful. And it's supposed to be a celebration. It is supposed to be a celebration of, it was supposed to come out on the, was it the 30th anniversary or 35th anniversary?
Yeah, it was 35th, I think.
But then COVID, and so it got pushed. So in that regard, I don't think it was a cash grab at all. I mean, we'll see if they do it on the next fucking title. But then again, everyone thought they were going to do Three Houses all over again, and they completely zagged. The thing about Fire Emblem is that there are no other franchises, no other game series that does what Fire Emblem does. When you talk about games like Fire Emblem, you talk about
like Shining Force and stuff like that.
Maybe Nobunaga's Ambition. Is that the
Yeah, that was like the OG one. You also get what the Yggdra games, Yggdra Union. There's a ton of SRPGs that are sort of similar, but lower, just lower budget.
And
honestly, a lot of time
don't really exist anymore. And so the fact that Fire Emblem has the entire market to themselves. And was incredibly niche. I mean, Awakening was supposed to be it was the death rattle for the entire franchise. That's why they went so balls to the wall and made arguably the best Fire Emblem games, because they're like, this is it. This is our, our shining send-off, and anything we want to do, we have to do now because this franchise is dead.
And we can all thank Sakurai for bringing it to the West.
Absolutely. So anyway, top of A, I'll live with.
And it may move.
Top of A, low S.
It may move.
I mean, it depends on where everything else. I like to explore the scale. Keep S ultra goated, sort of small company, but I don't think we have a lot of worries about that. We're all pretty cynical.
Yeah.
In our assessments.
I wonder if we even will have an ultra goated tier in the franchise, in any of these franchises. That is a curious question I have. F-Zero, I propose, goes into meme tier. Like, does this franchise even exist? Like, it cracks me up. I played it on SNES. I own it on SNES. I love the fact that they made Captain Falcon emerge out of this into Smash Bros, which is the only reason anyone knows about F-Zero who's under 30 years old. It's a fucking meme to me. It's always brought up in Direct. It's never coming back. Thoughts?
Captain Falcon and Captain Fabulous, by extension, are ultra goated, but the game series themselves, no care.
Show me your moves. You guys are fucking blasphemous. Yeah, it's a meme.
Golden Sun. This is tough because
a solid B.
Yeah, as good as these games are, like,
nailed it.
It came and went. There's been 3 of them, and it's never coming back. And I think when we were talking about the top 100, Nick, I think you were like, I remember really loving that game and don't remember a damn thing about it other than Jin.
Dude, and I played it recently too.
Comfortable B tier.
B might be too high. It's like comfort food, right? It's like going to see a Transformers movie.
They're good RPGs. It's just body of work. I mean,
it's awesome music too.
They're pretty forgettable. They were a time and place thing. They served their purpose.
We've got a lot more franchises on this list, buddy. I think it's going to end up floating up to B regardless.
Absolutely. Kid Icarus, I think, goes straight to bot tier. It's got like 3 games, and I don't know if any of them are even playable at this point. Also, Pit in Brawl.
I still want to check out Of Myths and Monsters sometime, just because of its sort of similarity in development and stylization to Metroid 2.
I was going to say, that's the Game Boy version, right?
Yes.
I'll put it above Dr. Mario.
So more of an obscure interest than a genuine desire, I guess.
Absolutely.
Kid Icarus Uprising has an 83 on Metacritic.
Yeah, really well liked game.
Yeah.
If it doesn't give you crippling arthritis.
No, you have to have the weird peripheral that they mailed you.
Yeah, and that's not happening.
Put it on Switch.
Kirby. As much as I like these games, I feel like Kirby belongs in B tier.
Yeah.
It's dependably
consistently good, just not consistently great.
Precisely. I'm putting it above Golden Sun because it's got so many more fucking games.
Oh my god. Air Ride.
Okay, Kirby's going into A tier. No,
Bro, Air Ride is one of those games that like everybody hated at the time and has now looked back at with nostalgia. And the price of that game, bro, you used to be able to walk into a fucking game store and buy that for $15 in 2015. That shit has popped off recently.
It's fun.
Over $100 game.
Let's
not get carried away.
People hated it at the time because it was a short game. That was like a weird era where like this game has to be worth my money. It has to be 20 hours long.
Doing all 100 achievements in the city trial is easily 20 hours plus. Anyway,
yeah, but that was a side mode. That's not the main game.
That is the main game. We all know. That's the main game. Luigi's Mansion.
Interesting.
Probably B also. First game's real good. Dark Moon is obnoxious and terrible. I haven't really played 3.
3 rules.
It's C. It's perfectly average. It doesn't move the needle. It exists. Some people like it. A lot of people don't. It's just solid. It's popcorn.
I'd put it low B.
I think low B makes sense.
Game B tier.
At the absolute ceiling because of the small body of work and because of the fact that, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. I'm going to go bot B.
What does C even mean anymore? Like, what is C tier? Like, we look at C as being a bad thing, or is C just games that we don't have enough experience with to judge, but we know people like it? Like, what is C? It's average.
I think B is average to me.
It's above average by definition.
B is average in a bell curve.
It depends on who's participating.
C is like does some stuff well, but is forgettable, and D is like this is like I don't know why this exists.
Mostly bad.
Yeah, mostly bad. Mario and Luigi. Boy howdy.
This is a C tier game.
Wow, that is a seriously like scalding take right out of the gate because I really like these games.
They haven't been good since the first one.
It's one good game and it's been downhill ever since.
Wow. All right. I'm putting it above Advance Wars though. Oh, don't. Paper Mario is going to not be a happy time, I think, for this group.
Oh, yeah. That's going to hurt.
Mario Kart.
It's going to hurt
Mario
me.
Kart, honest to God, I think could be ultra goated. Because it has been...
yes, of course it's ultra goated!
It has been a generational title on like every single...
It's unimpeachable.
Title it's been on. Man, Mario Kart, the quickest fucking ultra goat ever. That's awesome. I love that.
There hasn't been a bad Mario Kart game, including...
Maybe the GBA one.
Yeah, that 20 years ago? 23 years ago? Yeah. Come on. Decades.
All right.
Of just...
perfection. And Mario Kart 8 is Mario Kart Ultimate. As discussed on this podcast, I think the only way to move forward with that is to make it like Smash Kart Racing, where it's literally just Mario Kart. Anyway, Mario Party...
D
Bottom.
tier. Bod tier. Wow. Y'all have no nostalgia for cutting your palms open on Mario Party 2 on the 64, huh?
Sure. And then 10 other games in the franchise. I mean, what good has come from it?
And they had one chance to actually do something on the Switch
and they
that was modern.
They've had 2
and
chances.
engaging.
They fumbled the bag.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Oh, and the All-Stars one, yeah. Yeah, bot tier, definitely.
Like, we can't live in a world where we think that, like, almost anything is worse than Mario Party. Like, that hurts. That's insulting. Like, I feel bad for Kid Icarus. I kind of want to put Kid Icarus above Mario Party. Dr. Mario could say
I refuse to let Mario Party drop below Kid They
you just like Mario in that cowboy hat awaken something in you.
No, I just have a lot of good times playing those games, and I think that when they are good, they are very good.
The games are good. Everything else is awful. The 6 hours of sitting around trying to get to a good game.
Super Mario. So this is all of it. This is 2D and 3D. I feel guilty for not wanting to put it in.
No,
personally, I'd put an S. Ultra goated.
It has to be. Mario 3, Super Mario World.
There have been so many middling Mario games that I'm like, are we really gonna are the good ones that good? Like, you're gonna put with Mario 64 as part of this entourage, EJ. You wanted an ultra goated. You think that the games that are good are so good it makes up for that?
Yes, probably A, but B, it depends where Metroid's gonna go.
Metroid's not gonna be an S tier. Every fucking idiot knows that. Like, why do you think I'm so blind to the fucking things that I like just because I like them? Like, I am capable.
Go look at our top 100, top 10. That's why.
I am capable, contrary to some in this chat with beautiful braids, of being objective about things that I like and can recognize are still not good. Okay, I'll fucking put Mario in ultra goated. It's not going above Mario Kart. I'm not fucking happy about it. We're moving on to Metroid.
That's fine. That's fine.
Metroid, I want to put at the top of A above Fire Emblem, because I am a piece of shit, and this is my revenge for you. In all seriousness, though, I do think it's A tier. I think that it still does. I think it is consistently excellent. I think that there are a few entries in this franchise that are genuinely not good, which I think is rare for most of the other franchises we put on here. I think the highs of the franchise in things like Super Metroid, in things like Metroid Prime, in things like Metroid Dread, the whole Prime trilogy, like really truly, are really, really, really fucking good. I think it's A tier, but I don't know where to put it exactly in A tier.
Fun fact, with the last reporting of Fire Emblem Engage sales numbers, Fire Emblem has sold more copies lifetime than the Metroid franchise.
Yeah, I don't care.
Just barely.
What's that lifetime sales at, EJ?
Like 21.6-ish.
Lifetime sales with like 70 million games? Like, that's not a flex.
I think Luigi's Mansion is at like 15 million. Luigi's Mansion 3 by itself is at like 15 million. Just to put a little bit of context on this.
So there are 17 Fire Emblem games.
Yeah, that's sold like 3 mil a piece, and Metroid has like 9 games and it sold 20 mil.
A lot of Metroid games.
Games?
Yes, games, bro.
Actually, there are 16 Metroid games and a whopping 22 Fire Emblem games if you include the spin-offs such as Tokyo Mirage Sessions, the Warriors titles, and the many remakes and localizations. Even EJ is technically wrong sometimes, even if his point still stands.
I just thought that was funny.
I think all the games in the context of the consoles they were on are top 10 games on the consoles they're on. So I would probably put them on A.
These are top of A. I just can't do that. I'll be the fucking peacemaker.
Yeah, put it below Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing's better than Metroid.
I'm not rising to that. We're moving on. We're moving on. We're moving on to Mother. Speaking of another really weird thing to try to evaluate, these games are so weird and amazing, and I love all the stuff you said about Earthbound, but they're so fucking obtuse, and it is dick in a blender territory for sure, which carries some weight for me, even though I do really like it personally.
Certainly.
Mother 1.
More interesting than good.
It is pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It is extremely repetitive, incredibly obnoxious. What do they Earthbound Beginnings? Is that what they called it? Or Origins? Beginnings?
Yeah. Beginnings.
Mother 2, Earthbound, we've talked about. Yeah, it's got a lot of issues, but it's just got so much charm. Mother 3 fixes like almost all the problems.
Really cool battle mechanic with the tempo system as well. I love engaging turn-based combat where you're rewarded by being active in your participation. Really interesting chapter structure where you're changing your party changes as the story progresses. Really awesome. I love the monkey chapter. I love Salsa. He's a good boy.
Yeah.
So what are we thinking?
But yeah, definitely strange and interesting and unique and fabulous and beloved, but not always the greatest versions of like an RPG, like a turn-based, party-based RPG.
They've got one good game. It's C tier.
I would say there's 2 good games. I mean, Earthbound isn't that bad.
Earthbound's good.
It's not that
good. It's just, I didn't say great. I said good. It's just obtuse.
It's not as good as like the diehards want you to think it is, but just because some people are obnoxious in their love of it doesn't mean that you have to evaluate it more harshly. I would say bottom of B is fine.
I'd probably rather play Final Fantasy fucking Mystic Quest over fucking Earthbound.
Oh, dude.
I mean, every
Mystic Quest is not as bad as people like to say.
No, that's my point.
All right.
But it's the charm. It's the charm.
It's going bottom of B
Then Paper Mario has to go above that.
Absolutely not.
As far as that series has fallen.
No, that series, I literally would put this in bot tier if I didn't know that it would immediately revoke my console Crusader membership. This franchise has been dog shit for like 15 years. Offensively
They've only
bad.
done like 2 games.
They have
GameCube.
done a lot of games since GameCube. They've done Super Paper Mario. They've done Color Splash. They've done Sticker Star.
Dream Team.
Yeah, Dream Team. They've done Origami King.
Or what was it wasn't Dream Team. It was the spin-off like crossover with Mario and Luigi, the
Paper
really
Jam,
bad
and it
one.
wasn't that bad. Paper Jam was decent, but that was a cameo. That's not a proper Paper Mario game. They have been offensively bad to me and have literally only gotten worse in terms of being cash grab, gimmick based. Just not good games. And yes, the 1,000-Year Door is seminal and fantastic. And yes, the original Paper Mario is very good. But to me, that does not justify literally getting worse since those entries progressively for like 3 console generations. Top of C tier. That's my offer.
Paper Mario, Metacritic score, 93. 1,000-Year Door, 87.
That's insane.
Great games.
That's fucking insane. Those should be reversed. Like, that's wild.
Starved for RPGs on the N64, man. They wanted anything.
That's true.
God.
Origami King on the Switch is an 80 on Metacritic. Super Paper Mario is an 85 on the Wii on Metacritic.
I don't care. They're not fun. They're not fun. And what this game did well, they abandoned. Like, what are these games? What are they?
Platformers with characters.
They're quirky adventure games now.
It's like a serial killer cut the skin off of 1,000-Year Door and is wearing it around. Like, that's what this franchise feels like to me, is like, oh, we're an RPG. Just don't look too closely or see me peeping through the eye holes. Like, no, fuck this franchise. Seriously, fuck this franchise.
I can't argue with you as someone who wishes Paper Mario would return as a fucking bona fide RPG. But even the 3DS one, like, these are all...
No, the 3DS one was dog shit, dude. Sticker Star was truly a bad game.
75!
Color Splash was disappointing, and then Origami King was better, but yeah, Sticker Star was definitely a low
70
point.
reviews on Metacritic. It's got a 75.
You can't jump to Metacritic. People gave Skyward Sword a 10. I don't think it's that bad, but it's not a 10.
Well, it's also a time and place thing, which we talk about a lot. So it's hard to look back at it. But I'm just saying, time and place, while we are unhappy with how the franchise turned,
This is our tier list.
but I'm just saying it's not bot tier. Oh my God.
I said C.
What a take.
Yeah, it's definitely not bot tier.
That's my offer, is top of C.
If Donkey Kong can make it A tier with all the, I mean,
Does Donkey Kong have a bad game? Does Donkey Kong have a bad game?
DK64 is pretty mid, but I mean, it's not nearly as low as the lowest of Paper Mario.
Do we count all of the fucking crossovers that Donkey Kong has been a part of? As they've just thrown his IP around?
Why would we do that? That
because
makes no
Nintendo
sense.
doesn't respect Donkey Kong as a character or as a franchise or as a video game series.
It's had 2 better games than anything Paper Mario's done in 17 years. So like, what do you want here? Like, that's you picked a bad bone to pick if you're trying to find something to knock out of the A tier.
I don't know, dude. Donkey Konga, Jungle Climber
from 20 years ago. What's
Donkey Konga on
They've had
Metacritic?
one game in 20 years, Nick. One game in 20 years.
They've had 2.
They don't care about this
Returns
franchise.
and Tropical Freeze came out.
Within the last 15 years, both of those games came out and have been great.
When did Donkey Kong? That was like 09?
To 8, maybe
08?
08 or 09, I think. Well, it was after Metroid Prime 3, so I would say like 09 or 010. 010.
010.
You know what I mean.
2010.
Yeah, man.
All right,
I don't know.
Fine, we can move it into B tier on the glory that is the 1,000-Year Door.
No, I mean, I agree it should be in C because it's like, it is dragged down, but the highs were so high. I know you have qualms with your recent playthrough with Paper Mario. I think
It's really charming.
for a linear children's RPG, it is still fantastic. And the things they improved on in 1,000-Year Door is just like, oh man, you could see the trajectory. You could see how that could grow into a really interesting franchise, and they just shit the bed on that, which is a bummer. The new games are not as bad as your assessment, though.
And here's the thing with the backtracking in Paper Mario. It's one thing to reach a point and go, oh, I can't go there yet. I wonder what I need to get there. And the wonder of it and the finding of the abilities and the stuff, which is all like the Metroid-y crap, right? In Paper Mario, it's literally take this letter all the way back to fucking Koopa Town, and you literally just have to walk the entire way. And hopefully you can avoid everything, but you probably can't. And you're probably going to miss some jumps because you're using a 64 controller.
Yeah, and the warp pipes help a lot with that, but I mean,
you don't get them until so late.
But they improved on that in Thousand Year Door, which is like why it's a better game. But
we're generally in consensus. We all agree Paper Mario fucks. We all agree Thousand Year Door fucks, and we agree everything else can go fuck itself. All right, Pikmin. 3 entries plus Pikmin Go or Go.
It's a really
Pikmin.
nice game franchise. I don't see how it can get above B though.
Yeah, I agree. That is like ceiling for sure is B tier because they're all good to great, but it's weird and specific and like I don't know if I'm gonna go like.
And it's not a game that you can be like, yo, you should play Pikmin because you have to be like, hey, what do you like? And then maybe we can talk about me recommending Pikmin to you.
Yeah, and it's been a minute since we had a proper title. We got one coming, which is great. There is the Hey Pikmin 3DS blight on its resume, which does matter. So if it's B tier, where is it sitting? This is like a comparable to Luigi's Mansion kind of weirdo to me, but which do we like more, I guess is the question.
Pikmin,
yeah. I mean, it's got 3 good games.
Okay, I'm going to put it under Kirby.
And one weirdo bad one.
The thing about Luigi's Mansion, at least in my limited experience with it, is that like if you're into like cute and quirky and just sort of the Nintendo vibe, like, but the game doesn't offer any challenge. Like Pikmin 1's a legitimately challenging experience.
Yeah.
And like I value that way more than anything just like a, you know, I'm not really a big fan of just like popcorn experiences. I don't want to actively be playing something that isn't engaging me. And Luigi's Mansion is like, oh, this is cute and fun, but like I would rather watch a Luigi's Mansion cartoon than fucking play this game.
Sure. No, that's totally fine.
I found it very charming and rewarding, and just sucking stuff up feels good. And just wandering around dioramas, giving things the good old suck.
Yeah, given the paintings the old Poltergust Guck 9000. There we go.
Is this about to be the most reluctant S tier we've ever given a fucking?
It's time.
Anything on this podcast?
It's time for Pokemon. I cannot put this in S tier, but I would open with top of A because it again, dizzying highs, consistently good, some very middling entries that have honestly gotten worse in the last 2 years, and just some fucking baffling franchise decisions that I can't put it in S tier.
This is so tough because Pokemon changed gaming in so many ways. Man, it's tough because, yeah, every time a game comes out and we look at it, we just complain about how they haven't innovated and they haven't iterated properly. And Game Freak is just a feckless fucking company. Like, just completely unable to exist in the modern game sphere. But, dude, Pokemon is as evergreen as they come. It is right next to Mario in its cultural significance, more so. And my nostalgia just looms so heavy. It's tough. Top of A is probably a compromise, but to me, I'm like, despite their recent fucking issues, it's an S tier, man.
I know. I want to put it there, but I just can't fucking do it. I can't fucking do it.
You're blinded by your hate.
If it's just the games, then like A tier. I think so much of the success and the reason why people love it is beyond just the games. I mean, you can't quantify that sort of appreciation you have for the brand just from the Pokemon cards, from the movies, the TV show, the merch. I mean, it's a very lovable franchise, but the games are only part of that.
All right.
Punch Out.
Meme. It's a meme.
Oh, I like Punch Out.
It's not bad. It's just a fucking meme.
All right, it's going
Mike
in memes here.
Mike Tyson, Mr. Dream. It's a meme.
All right.
Mr. Meme.
I know we didn't play Rhythm Heaven. It's going in CCP no play. I'm also just going to preemptively dump Legendary Starfy into CCP no play because I know we didn't play that.
The one I memed on earlier.
Yes, exactly. I was like, are you looking at my screen already? Like, it's weird that you know that's on here.
Bro, I know the deep cuts. Come on.
Wait, why is Smash Bros not on here?
It is. I'm going to recuse myself from...
What? Am I not?
It's fine. Just trust me. I'm going to recuse myself from... No, I didn't. It's white, okay? I said don't fucking, like, let's not just waste time, but you got to fucking ask, even though I'm like, fucking take a breath. You're like my fucking third graders where I'm like, you give me 2 seconds, I'll explain the goddamn directions to you. Anyway.
I hope you don't teach these kids like you're talking to us right now.
Of course not. I take it out on YouTube because I can't say this to the third graders.
Oh, no.
Very healthy coping strategy.
You're why I drink.
I have said that to college students, but they think it's fucking hilarious. Splatoon. I didn't play these games. My opinion doesn't matter. Where do y'all think it goes?
Top of B.
Yeah, A or B. I mean, it's
Low A.
it is so much fun, but it's just multiplayer. It just makes it a good game.
Splatoon 2 would have been like third ranking in A for me, but Splatoon 3, just how little they've iterated this game now in
Single player is a lot better.
haven't played single player since the first game.
Oh, it's really nice.
Yeah, go bottom B or top A. Splatoon is just great. There's a reason there's 3 of them. It's sold
You mean
gangbusters.
bottom A or top B?
Isn't that what I said?
No, you said
I would say top B.
above Kirby? Really?
Yeah, I like Splatoon more than Kirby.
Oh man, is that like
Splatoon's
some
so much
Johnny
fun.
Come Lately shit though? I mean, it's literally got 3 games, and EJ loves to say they're literally all the same game.
Yeah, but they're all like really good, and we all like really like playing it. And there's been one Kirby game that we've all really liked playing. It's just that they're consistently like all right.
All right, well, it's whatever. Star Fox, I'm tempted to put in meme tier because
It's like
as
C or
much
D.
as I love Star Fox 64, I feel like putting it in meme tier saves it from the humiliation of being where it belongs, which is D tier.
D.
Guys, it's bot tier. Like Star Fox is a bad franchise with a good game and a good remake of that game.
Kind of just been
Adventures, Assault, Command, Star Fox Zero. Bro, they're bad. They're just bad. And they haven't been able to live up to a remake of a game that originally came out on the Super Nintendo. They haven't been able to do anything better with that franchise and the concept of a fucking cute furry piloting a fucking spaceship or a mech. Or come on. I will concede D on the fact that Star Fox 64 and the Star Fox 64 3DS remake are just so fun.
They rip, dude. They're straight up good games. Like not even just like, oh, in the context of no, they're just like
They're
good
fun.
games.
They're fucking fun ass games.
cool. I agree.
But D tier.
D tier makes me sad. I tried to save it in meme tier, but it's fine. Super Smash Brothers.
Ultra Golden!
above Mario Kart.
Above Mario Kart. Oh,
Higher highs.
I don't know.
You can have its own
I
tier.
don't
Smash Bros tier above Ultra Golden.
Sakurai tier.
Yes.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Mashed potato samurai, save us.
Chris, you sincerely do not have to agree.
No, I think it belongs in Ultra Goated, but I don't think it goes over Mario Kart because I think that anybody can pick up Mario Kart and have a really good time playing Mario Kart.
I don't care about anybody. I care about me.
I do.
Anybody can pick up Smash Bros and have fun, but sickos like us can try and get good at it in a way you can't get good at Mario Kart.
On Mario Kart DS.
Look, the approachability of those two games matters to me. That I think that more people have more fun on any Mario Kart you can plug in than people do with Smash Bros. And none of us are parts of the realistically competitive Smash Bros scene or have ever really been realistically parts of the competitive Smash Bros scene. So we don't really know what that's like. I like that it exists, but that to me is no different than there being a speedrunning community for a Pikmin game. It's just something that fans do as far as I'm concerned. And so I don't know. I think it's in between Mario Kart and Super Mario to me. But I'm open to counter arguments of why it should be the top.
How do I put this? Because it's better?
What does that fucking mean, EJ? Because there's literally never been a bad Mario Kart. They've all been excellent games. And we all agree that of the 5 Super Smash Brothers games, 2 of them at this point are basically unplayable. No one is playing Smash 64. No one is ever playing Brawl again.
Brawl's great. I brought it up for the top 100 for a lot of reasons. It wasn't as good as Melee for the competitive scene, and I think that gets overblown historically, but it sold gangbusters.
It doesn't feel good. The fact that there are pratfalls, the characters, nothing about that game feels right in a way that I'd even play Smash 64 before I would play Brawl.
No, I agree with you. The fucking characters tripping is pretty dumb and was a weird answer to being more approachable for casuals or more fair.
It's the blue shell of Smash Bros.
And the character additions were pretty fucking forgettable in that game specifically, as far as Smash Bros games go, that we got
yo, we like Ike. Falco Lombardi, Solid Snake, Sonic the Hedgehog,
Sonic is a meme.
Lucas, Mother 3,
Lucas is cool. Wario is like, okay, neat.
Rob the Robot.
Rob is cool.
We love
is
Rob.
cool.
His sick ass dreidel.
Bro, I'm with you, Nick. I thought the characteristics were badass. Ike is my fucking main.
Subspace Emissary was just like over the top crazy nonsense. It's just Super Smash Brothers is the representation of Sakurai's vision and just a creator having a singular vision and singular control over a franchise within the context of Nintendo and it being crossover. It preceded this like crazy rush to the bottom as far as multiverse stuff, and you see that with like WB and you see that with Fortnite and Ready Player One, and all that stuff is just trash compared to what Smash Bros has done in representing those characters and those franchises and doing it in such a loving and caring way. Like, it cares so much about the games that these characters come from and the stages and the items and the movesets. It is so cool. You dream about what this character would do in Smash Bros, that they would be so rewarded in the pantheon of video game history to be put in such a goated roster. Like, it's beyond just how good is this series. It's Smash Bros as a franchise is a ultra goated amongst video games altogether, amongst media. It's just so cool.
Yes. Nick, you said it is a celebration of some of the greatest franchises and characters of all time.
And they nailed it every time.
Every time. And Chris, to your point, I agree. Mario Kart is very approachable. But the fact that Smash Bros is arguably as approachable, but also has such an incredible skill gap and ceiling where like you can become a complete sicko and try to be good at that game. And you can still sit down and play with your little cousins or your girlfriend who doesn't play video games. You know what I mean? And not be,
unbearable.
Right.
Like play MVC2 with your cousin.
I'd love to see you play Smash Brothers with somebody who's never played Smash Brothers, who you're also dating, and tell me if that date, you get another date, but it's whatever. I'll put it at the top of Ultra Goated. I vocally and continue to object to this being the top thing on our fucking tier list. But whatever. WarioWare, I'd open like mid B for that. It's really cool, but also when's the last time you played a WarioWare game?
I'd say C at this point, honestly, because it's had some really good entries, but there's so many that were very forgettable or just not good, not interesting.
Even the good ones,
and that hurts it,
are, fine.
All right, I'm going to put it under Paper Mario.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's fair.
I've said this 100 times. There were mobile games before mobile games. It's supposed to be that sort of Tetris, pick up and play, put it back in your pocket, which is why, a lot of their poorer entries are on a console where it just doesn't make as much sense as it does on a DS or a Switch or a Game Boy or whatever. So yeah, it's C.
Nick, you played ARMS. EJ, did you play ARMS?
This much. My brother had it, and
I did not play it. Nick, how much did you play this game?
I beat the campaign. I played a little bit online. There was some like weekend events that they were trying to like push it, sort of like Splatfests, where it's like, oh, here's like a theme,
It's a meme.
And it's fine.
It's a meme.
Not gonna ever get a sequel. It's not a meme. I mean, it's just a one and done. Like, I don't even know why it's on here. Why is it a franchise? It's not a franchise. It's a game.
I'm gonna put it in D tier.
Well, they tried to push it so hard. They included so much of it in Smash Bros. And, they tried to, like you said, the weekend things. They did a fucking demo weekend testing the servers because they thought it was going to become this thing.
Stop trying to make ARMS happen. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's never going to happen. Dude, 1-2 Switch is getting a sequel before ARMS.
That's hilarious. And
it is hilarious.
I need it for the Whammy League.
Dude, 1-2 Switch.
55% on OpenCritic.
I had a really fucking good 45 minutes playing that game and never played it again.
Yeah, that should be
$60 well spent.
That should be on here.
It was 50.
Nice.
We're moving on to
Worth it.
Xenoblade Chronicles. Nick, this is near and dear to you. I don't know what to do with it. I have enjoyed the tiny bit of this that I played, but I can't wait. I haven't played it. I know EJ hasn't played it. Where does it feel in your heart?
It's a really, really good RPG franchise. And I don't know where I would put it because it's hard to say, hey, you should play this 80 to 100 hour RPG, and obviously I am hard pressed to even get you to play it, Chris, the man who loves RPGs and loves spending sicko time on bullshit.
I need a time when I am not playing anything else, which is really hard to find.
Well, especially now since you're doing your weird little 7-day juggle where you're playing one game an hour for
which continues
you have your time allotted
to go great. I had a great time with my Friday Spyro session.
Yeah, but playing an RPG like that might be a little bit more difficult. Yeah, I mean,
it goes right under Splatoon. Looking at our top 100 list, Xenoblade Chronicles is above Kirby and Pikmin. It's above Luigi's Mansion. Golden Sun didn't even make the top 100. Sorry, I'm speaking for you, Nick. I just cannot see a world where it goes above anything in A tier.
It's tough, though, because it's obviously we're comparing apples and oranges a lot with a franchise tier list like this.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's 4 and like some expansions games in the series. And by all accounts, I haven't played X because I didn't have a Wii U at the time. I mean, it hardly counts, but the trilogy, every single game is a banger. And that's like 3 great games versus what Donkey Kong, where it's like a lot of great games, some like weird mid games, Animal Crossing, 5 to 6, like really good games. Metroid, highs and lows, Fire Emblem, highs and lows, Pokemon, highs to lows. I mean, it's just hard to sort of, I think it belongs in A. Like, I think it's better than Splatoon in every measure, and there's as many games that I love from the franchise.
Can we put it at bottom of A tier then, if for no other reason than all 3 of us are making the list and 2 of us haven't played them, which is our own fault, like, admittedly, but just that as we're coming to consensus, we agree, based on your experience, it's an A franchise for sure, but that we can't.
Yeah, I wouldn't even like begin to dream that it's S, but like it is a really great franchise.
Sick. Yoshi, which is
D,
to my mind, basically the same game like 8 times. Playing Yoshi's Island DS, I was like,
progressively worse every time.
All right,
dude.
I'm putting it under Star Fox. Okay, that brings us to the final game on this list, which is undoubtedly going to keep Nick on this fucking recording past 9 o'clock. Now it is literally 9 o'clock. The Legend of Zelda. I don't see a world that this is not in the ultra goated tier. I don't think that any single Zelda game is anything less than good. I think that most of them are excellent and some of them are generational. And I don't know how that lands below ultra goated tier. Every single one of us on this podcast has at least one Zelda game that we think is an all-time fucking game.
No, I certainly don't. I would never argue that Wind Waker is an all-time game. Not even, oh God, that would be crazy. It's one of my favorite games ever. But I would never argue that. You want to talk about Ocarina of Time being generational the way that Mario 64 is generational. I wouldn't argue that, but
not one of the games I would have included in my generational
I know it's
list.
not what you would have, but Nick certainly probably will. And a lot of other people still do when they're ranking all the games, not just Nintendo games. I keep joking with you guys in the group chat. Like, all Zelda is mid. They do one fucking thing over and over and over, and they finally shook up the formula in 2017 and did something modern. Among Nintendo franchises, it's certainly perceived as being the best or almost the best. I've long contended that, like, people just have those fucking nostalgia blinders on, and when they see the Nintendo seal of fucking quality and they see the Legend of Zelda logo, their fucking brains turn off. Nintendo gets away with things or does things or doesn't do things that any other company would be fucking roasted over a fire for. Ultra goated seems crazy to me. I would put Zelda like B somewhere.
Oh, you're a fucking lunatic for that.
It's obviously going to have to, I mean, I would take Pokemon over Zelda every fucking time.
The same game. You want to talk about like doing one thing well and never doing anything else. That is literally Pokemon. So the hypocrisy, sir. My Ocarina of Time experience was on the 3DS. It's great on the 3DS, except for the fact that I have to play it on a 3DS. It's a good game when it is liberated.
Z-targeting, circle pad.
When it is liberated from the Nintendo 64, it's great. Trying to play it on a 64, it's just unfortunate those are the two options you have to play this game. If you gave me like even just like a port of the 3DS Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. Do a bonus pack. Release a physical Nintendo. I'll pay $60 for that. I will, because it would let me play this game as it's intended to be played. Anyway, no, B tier, that's madness.
I compromise at A, you know?
Zelda's ultra goated. They're generational games, even when there are multiple in the generation. Like, they will both do something that is like either amazing or uniquely interesting and also really, really great for the time being. It's just, I can't imagine a tier list of Nintendo franchises that Zelda's not in the top tier. Like, it's just so consistent in its excellence.
It's certainly the narrative. You talk about generational and the way they're perceived. I mean, that is the narrative.
It's the narrative because it's true.
Keep in mind that, like, all this narrative and all this nostalgia nonsense, EJ, I did not play these games as a child. I came to Zelda in, like, 2016, outside of the handheld Zeldas, which we all agree are objectively fucking excellent, like Link's Awakening, like the Oracle games, like Minish Cap. A Link to the Past I had played a little bit of, but I came to Zelda as an adult, as a grown-ass man, and was like, what is this about? And have enjoyed every single fucking one of these, including Wind Waker, despite my gripes about it, is great. Like, these are all great. I don't have nostalgia for them. I played them now, and they are good games. And I don't know what else to say than that. But I'm not part of that crowd.
And having nostalgia for something doesn't discount your opinion on it. Just means that we're coming from two different places, but that doesn't mean that I don't love these games in a valid way. Like, that's a bizarre take. Like, oh, you loved it when you were a kid? Well, that means you don't actually love it. What the fuck does that mean? I guess Pokemon's actually a D because they've been bad for 10 years.
Chris, would you, of the franchises in the A tier that you have played, would you get rid of any of those for Zelda? Honestly, would you get rid of Metroid for Zelda?
But that's dumb. I don't have to get rid of anything. Like, why would I? That's a stupid thought
Well, why would it go above it? If you would rather play all the games in A tier, why would you put Zelda above it?
You like steak more than hamburgers, EJ? Would you give up hamburgers to have a steak?
I would rank steak higher than hamburger if I would rather have a steak than a hamburger. That's why I'm asking. Would you rather play Zelda over any of those games in A tier?
Just because I would put Metroid in S tier doesn't mean that I think for this group or on summation it belongs in S tier. But Zelda does. Your point is asinine. There has not been a bad Legend of Zelda game ever. The worst Legend of Zelda game, to me, would rank it like somewhere between like an 82 and an 85, and everything else would be above that. That's Looney Tunes numbers.
I'd give up all of the A tier just to make sure there's still Zelda games in the future.
I'd sacrifice anything at the altar of Metroid, but I don't have to because, again, that's a dumb thought experiment. Just because my preference is... Anyway, I don't want to rehash this again. I will let it occupy the bottom end of the ultra goated row.
Like, if I'm just being objective in my own beliefs here, like, it's, for me, I put Zelda and Super Mario, like the Super Mario franchise, as like neck and neck. Like, they're both so good and consistent, and they excel.
And I think there's more bad Mario games than there are Zelda games, but that may only just be because there's been a lot more Mario games. Exactly. That there's
right.
Mario could afford to do like Mario Land 1, which is like, okay, it's fine. They can afford to do stuff like that, or Mario is missing, like because it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere.
It's not Super Mario is missing. That's a different franchise.
Yeah, we're not going to find any common ground. I've like more or less hated Zelda since I was 7. With a few brief exceptions.
So you have hate nostalgia, but you don't want to acknowledge that. You just want to acknowledge like Nick's joy nostalgia is the problem, but not your hate nostalgia. That as a kid you were like, I don't fucking get this. I don't like this.
I've played every 3D Zelda game except for the one on the Wii. As a collector, I bought them all. I had all the special edition hardcover guy. I was like collector pilled, but I was like, these are good games, so I have to like them. I've tried and tried and tried since I was but a little boy.
You have to come to something and enjoy it because you enjoy it, not because someone tells you to enjoy it. If somebody tells you to enjoy it, of course you're not going to enjoy it. We're the same in that regard, like aggressively contrarian, that if people are like, you should play this, you'll love it, and 70 people tell me that, I'm not going to fucking play that thing.
Well, everyone told me to play Skyrim, and it became one of my top 10 favorite games of all time. So I'm not a contrarian for contrarian's sake. I just want to like good things, and I don't like Zelda.
Okay, well then you don't like those good things, and that's your choice, and that's fine. But I'm not going to sit here and say that like your nostalgia is more valid than Nick's nostalgia.
You know what? I lost out on every damn ranking on the top 100, and it became the Nick and Chris show. I'm standing by this. Top of A. End of story.
All right.
I'll edit all this out. Zelda won't even make the tier list.
So EJ, is that your one revision you want to make, is to move Zelda out of as ultra goated and into the top of A tier? Because remember, everybody gets one.
What order are we doing our revisions in?
I was just gonna. Okay, you're a smart man, because I'm sure that Nick's gonna move it back. Why don't you rock paper scissors for it? I'm going last, and I will not change the Zelda decision.
Go, just do a random number generator and put our names in on your live stream so we can all see that you're not cheating.
Yeah, you want me to add a second fucking tab to my Chrome and crash
Are you in Chrome?
and crash this? Yeah, great fucking guy. So I'm tell you what, here's what we're doing.
He's out of RAM.
I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10.
7.
You got to write it down so that we know you're not cheating. Because you're going to move Smash Bros. And one of us is going to have to move it back, and then it just undoes the whole concept of
I don't know what
having...
I'm going to do. I am impulsive. I'm in the moment.
He's like a dog chasing cars.
That's good.
All right.
He's the Joker, baby. Collector pilled. I love parlance.
It's so true.
All right. The number is writ down. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. EJ, you pick first.
Nick already said 7. Did that influence your number at all? 3.
1.
The number is 6. EJ, would you
Decides the order.
like to pick first or second?
First or second, I like to go last.
I'm not changing the Zelda decision. I already said that. But I'm going last. It's my tier list.
Nick, you can go.
Now I'm in a very interesting position.
I love this.
You can play defense, Nick. You do what you know is right.
I know. I can just fuck with EJ. Like he's going to hurt me.
Fire Emblem goes to D tier. That's Nick's move. EJ, what up with it?
I would not be so cruel as to move Fire Emblem.
Again,
to
I'm
D
editing
tier.
this podcast, so I can put the pieces in however I want, and no one will ever know.
Let's do this also.
You're not that
Let's
smart.
agree we put these in these tiers.
Dare me.
Let's agree we put these in these tiers for a reason. There will be no moving of a franchise more than one adjacent tier level. There's no reason for Fire Emblem to go to C tier. But if Nick wanted to be a pissant and drop it to B tier, I support it in principle.
I was thinking about it and see. Yeah, I'll do the petty thing. I think Fire Emblem is a B. You could put it right above Kirby. I think Splatoon's better than Fire Emblem.
All right, I'm doing it.
Go for it, EJ. A's looking pretty lonely without Fire Emblem up there.
Wait, so I can only move it one adjacent tier?
Correct. So if you wanted to drop Zelda, you cannot drop Zelda to B tier or C tier. It doesn't make sense.
Makes perfect sense to me.
Well, that's fine, but on some, like we put these things in these places for a reason. Even I agreed Fire Emblem, a franchise that
And Chris gets what he wants and puts Metroid in S tier, so just put Metroid in B.
I'm not.
Be
I don't even
EJ.
know what I'm doing yet. We're just gonna tear each other.
Here's the thing. Again, I take solace in the fact that like half of the fucking top 10 list from major respected outlets all list Wind Waker above Ocarina of Time, and I feel better about that, so I can sleep well tonight knowing that other people's opinions align with mine. Let's put Xenoblade Chronicles right after Kirby.
Who hurt you?
Nick,
I
specifically. Yeah. No, right after. Sorry. But it can go right behind Fire Emblem.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've put
Other
me
side
in a
of
really interesting position because I was going to be the bigger man
No, you weren't.
and move Fire Emblem back to A tier. Yes, I fucking was. I was like, okay, EJ's gonna move Zelda. I promise I'm not gonna affect the Zelda thing because ultimately with two of us we could just like flip it back and that'd be stupid radio. It's not interesting. So I was like, I'm gonna be a bigger man and fucking move Fire Emblem back into A tier. Then you drop Xenoblade. Now I'm thinking Metroid goes to S tier.
Metroid goes S.
The true compromise would be that all of our beloved franchises would all go in A next to each other as it being the Console Crusade tier list agreed upon. Do we need to get Lindsay on the pod? What's going on? Slap some headphones on. Come say hey.
We're finishing up a tier list. Sorry. I know. We got to finish up. So, Chris, make your
All right.
move.
God damn it. You fuckers really just had to like cut each other's Achilles tendons, didn't you?
We decimated
oh my
A tier.
God.
It's
You
gone.
did. And that's so sad.
To
That's
Adams.
really sad. And now I don't know what to do.
I don't feel good about this. I'd rather get rid of this bit completely and keep Zelda at the bottom of A, move Fire Emblem back right next to Metroid, and just not even.
Okay, you made a choice, EJ, and that choice was to drop Xenoblade Chronicles. Are you saying you'd like some take-backsies? Because we are adults and I could do that for you, but you have literally 5 seconds to make a fucking choice right now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's the move?
Yeah, put Fire Emblem back in A.
Okay. See, isn't this better? Like, they're all right there. Like, God, positivity. What a notion. I'm moving Paper Mario into D tier under Star Fox. No, that's not true. Over Star Fox.
No.
But I am.
Oh my God.
But I am moving it into D tier. And that is my move. After all that talk
now
of
we can all
me like slash like you're also fucking negative. Also, fuck Paper Mario. Is that really what I want to do? Oh my God. It felt good in the moment, but now it doesn't feel good.
Nick's got to go to bed. This is our tier list. Read it out for us.
I'll let Nick go to bed. I'll make my choice after. Okay, the Console Crusade podcast Nintendo franchise tier list. In the CCP no play tier is Rhythm Heaven and the legendary Starfy. In the meme tier, Punch Out and F-Zero. Bot tier, Mario Party, Kid Icarus and Dr. Mario. D tier, Star Fox, Yoshi, Bayonetta, ARMS. C tier in order is Paper Mario, WarioWare, Mario, Luigi, and Advance Wars. I have B tier, Splatoon, Kirby, Pikmin, Golden Sun, Luigi's Mansion, and Mother. A tier, Pokemon, Metroid, Animal Crossing, The Legend of Zelda, Donkey Kong, and Xenoblade Chronicles. Ultra goated in reverse order, Fire Emblem, Super Mario, Mario Kart, and Super Smash Brothers.
Thank you for letting me be small and petty in my moment of weakness. EJ, I love you.
It's cool. I like it. I respect the hustle. Nick, you get to be negative sometimes. You don't always have to be Switzerland while, the two Sasquatches yell at each other.
These giant men, you intimidate me. Sometimes I have to fight back, catch you at the ankles.
Okay, the
Real.
Console Crusade podcast Nintendo franchise tier list. In the CCP no play tier is Rhythm Heaven and the legendary Starfy. In the meme tier, Punch Out and F-Zero. Bot tier, Mario Party, Kid Icarus, and Dr. Mario. D tier, Star Fox, Yoshi, Bayonetta, ARMS. I know what I'm doing. I'm moving Star Fox. D tier is now Yoshi, Bayonetta, and ARMS. C tier in order is Paper Mario, Star Fox, WarioWare, Mario, Luigi, and Advance Wars. I've moved Star Fox from D tier to C tier. That was my move. B tier, Splatoon, Kirby, Pikmin, Golden Sun, Luigi's Mansion, and Mother. A tier, Pokemon, Fire Emblem, Metroid, Animal Crossing, Donkey Kong, and Xenoblade Chronicles. Ultra goated in reverse order, The Legend of Zelda, Super Mario, Mario Kart, and Super Smash Brothers.